Good evening, chat. Hello, welcome. It is Tuesday night. It's Tuesday night. All right, so welcome to the show. We got to talk about. I know you guys wanted me to talk about this for a little bit, and we've been kind of held up with other things going on, but we finally have some time to talk about what's going on in Rare Breed Triggers. And if you guys are new to the saga, you're like, why are you calling a gun company scummy? And you'll see why. You'll see why. And they really are. They really are. They're acting like pieces of shit. And you're gonna be like, huh. And it's not the first time stuff like that ever happens. And that's the sad part, chat. Hold on, I gotta fix this. There we go. Make that face the wall. There we go. A little bit better for the light. So we're gonna work on that today. We're gonna work on that and get into some things here. If you guys are new, welcome. My name's Sean, also most potentially criminal. I'm an attorney in the Cleveland, Ohio area. And yeah, we're gonna get into this rare breed stuff. And if you guys are normies and you guys aren't gun people, and I know a good portion of you are out there, at least in my chat, like you understand guns or you're like, guns are cool. This idea about force reset triggers and reset triggers, I can't show you everything, but I can at least show you what we're talking about and kind of analogize what I can about them. And I'm not the most mechanically inclined person, so I know I'm going to screw it up, but I'm trying to put it in terms that anybody can understand. So, let's see here. Let's see. We got a lot of people here tonight. Did I cover the Paris sentencing? No, P-Dub. We're gonna cover that tomorrow night. So tomorrow night we're gonna do a couple different things. We got a surprise for tomorrow night, and then after we get some stuff covered tomorrow night, we are gonna do members only, and we're gonna do a call-in show. Now, the only way I can think of doing the call-in show that makes any sense and will kind of work is going to be through StreamYard. So I'll just keep the screen up here and I'll bring you guys on, but I'll be the only one on screen. And if you guys have questions or whatever, we'll give everybody gets a couple minutes on the clock and we'll, you guys can call in and if you have questions, we can talk about them. So we'll try that tomorrow night. Game plan for that's going to be like 9 o'clock. So I'll get that ready, but that is our game plan. We will cover the Juliana Macalis getting sentenced tomorrow. It's short and sweet, but she gets nuked, and couldn't happen to a nicer lady. How is it a wee surprise if you know what it is? Well, oh. All right. Heads up, YouTube is all fucked up. Like what? What's all fucked up? I guess that's good to know. Thank you, Manny. Whoa, apparently YouTube's having trouble tonight, chat. They want to silence us. They know too much. We know too much here. So, all right. So, real quick, we got a couple things to get to here. EDW Raptor for $10 says, "How dare you not make this a stream dedicated to 2.0 on her birthday?" Yes, today is 2.0's birthday. Lovely day for her today. It's the least you could do for her today. Happy birthday, 2.0. And happy Mardi Gras. Yes, it is Mardi Gras. Tomorrow's Ash Wednesday, guys. So if you get the chance, get some burned palm fronds, done up on your forehead. If you can. SB Sellers for $10 says, the 2.0 birthday. The birthday fun. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Oh, wow. So it's just how these things go, huh? Isn't that how that works, chat? Isn't that how that works? And then we got SB Seller saying, Harmeet Dillon, and I think Harmeet Dillon and Ron Coleman, like Ron's like is he actually partner there or is he just like of counsel? But anyway. Yes, they are threatening to sue Robert Barnes, and it's like, That's going to be a fun lawsuit in and of itself. Just, oh my God. Just all the gooberiness in that together is going to be like the best day ever to watch, and watch all these guys tar joust. It's going to be like Will Chamberlain and others against Robert Barnes. And I'm just, I'm here for it. I'm here watching these guys go at each other. It will be funny. It will be funny. I think at some point. I think it will be funny at some point here. So, and then there's where is the well, so we'll take care of that. Trump won. 420 says I used a super safety today. It worked great, just slower, maybe even better than rare breed. Well, we'll get to all that. We'll get to all that. 803 is saying the federal allow reset triggers. Yes. Yes, we're gonna go all the way back to the beginning of the story with the forced reset triggers, because not everybody knows the lore. And then Johan for $26. It's a weird amount. Says Sean, please use to get the wonderful future Miss Smart 2.0, a nice dessert or something, whatever she likes. I will keep that in mind. Thank you. And then I am Uncle Bob with the hard R. He's been a member 15 months. Says happy birthday, future Mrs. Martin 2.0 and Sandwich Man. Well, it's not my birthday's not for another 6 months. So, all right, guys, we've been here long enough. Let's get started. Okay, so we are talking about the world of forced reset triggers. And what these are, and this is, we're going to just show a picture of one because there's only so much I can do before YouTube shits their panties here. This is a forced reset trigger. Okay. Now you can see this one says only for use in the HK 416s and the MR 556. That's H&K's AR-15 platform they put out. Now, notice some of the stuff they have. Like, they have a lot of working parts in this, okay? I think technically you could also call this a cassette trigger because it's all in a little cassette. You can literally just take it into an AR-15 receiver and boop. Just like Timney triggers, just like KE Arms triggers, which I still have one in my thing, even though they all trimmed out. Maybe I should get rid of that. I don't know. Anyways, it's you put it in. Now, how does it work? Well, the gun is still semi-automatic, but based on how it operates, it forces the gun to reset, and then the trigger resets, and you pull back again, and you're pulling back on it. It's almost like, it's not exactly this way, but if you guys, we talked about how the bump stocks work. Basically, the gun's bouncing off your finger. It's like that, except this is far more controlled, because with a forced reset trigger, you're just holding it like normal. There is no extra stock issues. There's no wobble or slop. It literally looks like somebody going brr, brr, as they go. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's the best way I can do it. It's kind of like a bump stock, but it's just in a narrow little package, and it's far more efficient. It's you really can't fuck it up, but you could also just go pew 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 if you want to. But it's far more efficient, and you don't have to worry about, like with a bump stock, you have to be like good at actually making the gun kind of like do the dance. But that's what Rare Breed is known for. They made forced reset triggers. Is Louis the dog the content surprise? No. Oh. So the KE Arms broke off from Carl. They're no longer affiliated with him since the Wired article. Okay, well, that's a little better. But I'm not gonna lie, the KE Arms trigger I have in there with the flat blade on, it's fucking nice. It's the thing. Like, you learn a lot of KE Arms untruned. Good for Russell. I'm glad he ditched the commies. One thing I cannot understand about the libertarians, like, trying to break bread with the commies never works well, and it never ends well. So, Charvin Hefner says, I could fuck it up. Yeah, but it's really hard to fuck up an FRT, a forced reset trigger. And guys, these things are coming out for every type of gun imaginable. There are now, people are making them for Beretta 92s. There's some dude on YouTube. We watched it on members only or on locals. Some guys out there making a forced reset trigger for a Beretta 92. So it's like a Beretta 93. And it's like, brrr. They are really good. The force reset triggers, it's as close as you can get to a machine gun without having a machine gun. And for those of you who don't own guns or you're in Europe, why? Because we can't have machine guns. And honestly, there has been an entire genre of engineering, probably for the better part of 30 years now, on how can I make this operate like a machine gun without it being machine gun. And it's all about taking your finger and just sticking it right in the ATF's eye and saying, neener, 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 I'm not breaking the law, but look at this. It's basically a machine gun. That's what a bump stock did. Neener, neener, neener. This is basically, it sounds like a machine gun, but it's not. And then what did the ATF do? They tried to classify it as a machine gun. We had the Cargill case. Thank God the Supreme Court ruled and said, obviously they're not. Bump stocks are not machine guns. That saved force reset triggers because these were going to be in the same boat as bump stocks had things not changed. Luke is saying, yeah, the 1934 NFA is an infringement. Yes, but as I keep telling you guys, the odds of that going away, you're going to need 9 Clarence Thomases on the Supreme Court, and you ain't getting that. So not trying to make you feel bad there, but yeah. But as it's set, these are what force reset triggers are. And Rare Breed, kind of paved the way. They were like one of the big ones out there. One of the big ones out there. And then 2021 came along. And in 2021, this happened. And when this happened, it was a big deal. And it was really bad. It was really bad. People didn't like this, like what was happening here. But this is the heavy-handedness. These were the dark days. Were we ever going to get back in charge? 8/2/21. And it was to Rare Breed Triggers LLC. So this happened right in 2021 here. What happened? So the ATF went ahead and said the model FRT-15 is determined to be a machine gun as defined in the NFA. Now notice they did that. They decided this was a machine gun. But thankfully Cargill kind of killed that. Because it's not any parts intended or exclusively or combination of parts designed and intended for use of converting a weapon to a machine gun. It's not a machine gun because every time you have your finger on the force reset trigger, you still have to pull it. Each time is a separate pull of the trigger. Therefore, it's not a machine gun. Remember, a machine gun it shoots or is designed to shoot automatically more than one shot without reloading by a single function of the trigger. This part right here, this top part, is the definition of a machine gun. So it's not a machine gun. But notice, they basically said, well, it's scary and it goes fast. So what happened? Well, they told Rare Breed because of that, it's under the NFA. So it's subject to registration, transfer, taxation, and possession restrictions. Also, if you owned one, it's a contraband, and they could take it back. And they say, additionally, machine guns were also subject to the Gun Control Act of 1968, which is the criminalization of machine guns and the NFA violations. So they point out that these can't be sold just willy-nilly anymore. So they said it. Because of all of this, the ATF found that allows a firearm to expel more than one shot without manually reloading with a single continuous pull of the trigger, which is bullshit unless they modified it. People were saying YouTube was shitting the bed in Hella's chat. Okay, well, guys, we're live on Twitter and on Kick if you guys want to join other ways. So what did they tell Rare Breed? Cease and desist all manufacture and selling. Contact ATF to develop a plan to address those machine guns already distributed. So they had to go find people. Who did you sell these to? Where did they go? We need to track these down. And what they would do is if you own one, you bought one, and they come and they come up to your door and go, they'd say, "Hi, I'm with the ATF. We understand you have a rare breed FRT. That's actually a machine gun. We need you to surrender that." So that's what was going to happen. And they say for public safety reasons, your cooperation in this matter is essential. Uh, your failure to take the above steps may result in law enforcement action by the ATF, including a referral for prosecution, tax assessments, and collection. Remember, each time you make a machine gun, it's a $200 tax. Or 3, seizure and forfeiture of the firearms and property involved in violations of federal law, meaning we'll take everything you own. And this is from the Tampa Field Division. This was a big, big thing. And I don't know if you guys weren't part of the community at that point, this was fucking huge when it happened. People were like, what the fuck? Did I read Henya as hella? Yes. I thought you meant hella like excited under it. Sorry. Now, this was a big fucking deal. This was huge when it dropped. Everybody rallied to Rare Breed's defense. It's like, fuck the ATF. Let's help these guys. Well, things changed. Things changed a lot as we get to, we get to this point in the world. And things get a little different here. As it goes, this is a settlement agreement for May 2025 entered by Pam Bondi and the DOJ, along with Rare Breed Triggers and a couple other gun companies. So you're like, okay, well, this sounds kind of based. So May 13th, it's an agreement through Pam Bondi, in her capacity as Attorney General of the United States, Dan Driscoll as the acting director of the ATF, and then the claimants being Rare Breed Triggers, the National Association for Gun Rights, all these other groups and other people involved in here. But we see specifically Lawrence Delmonico and Kevin Maxwell. So they talk about the recitals here. What are the recitals? So they talk about Second Amendment, shall not be infringed. Yes, very true. Congress amended the Gun Control Act in 1968 to prohibit circumstances the transfer, possession, and registration of new machine guns. Not 1960. That would have been the Hughes Amendment, but okay. They talk about the 1934 NFA being defined, and they said, during the previous administration, the ATF's Firearms Technology Criminal Branch issued an open letter advising them that all recently examined FRTs, they determined some of them are firearms and machine guns. And they say against this backdrop, there was litigation, mainly among Rare Breed Triggers. They were like the head of this litigation. Single Gutter says YouTube's broken. I'm sorry to hear that. Bummer. Oh, Twitter's having problems too, apparently. StreamYard's telling me. So they talk about on February 7, 2025, Trump issued an executive order said protecting Second Amendment rights. I mean, if we really wanted to protect Second Amendment rights, he could repeal all the EOs George H.W. Bush signed, in 89 and throughout the rest of his administration dealing with import bans. Be nice if he did that, but, we'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed, chat. Fingers crossed. Where's Don Jr. and their little Second Amendment coalition shit they had the last time? Where'd all those guys go? So anyway, as part of the things there was a Second Amendment task force, which is devoted protecting the Second Amendment rights of all Americans, quote unquote. Review of the task force, the government believes continuing litigation is not in the public interest. So there are some recitals here in the discontinuing of pending litigation. So within 7 days of this, the parties jointly moved to dismiss with prejudice a case, the United States versus miscellaneous firearms related parts. Okay. What else are they going to do? Within 7 days of this, they're going to file a stipulation of dismissal with prejudice, meaning can never come back. Against the rare breed parties, DeMonico and Kevin Maxwell, and dismissed their pending appeal in United States versus Rare Breed Triggers, which is on appeal to the Second Circuit. They're also going to get rid of the case of NAGR versus Bondi. I just love their name. I love their name. I remember when they first started it and they were on Facebook. I'm like, this has got to be so fake. It's got to be so fake. The United States agrees to the extent practical to return FRTs that it has seized or taken as a result of voluntary surrender. And remember, they came to your door and demanded them. And it says such returns must be requested by individual owners by September 30th, 2025, consistent with the instructions on the ATF's website. So yes, you had to contact the ATF. It's not like they're going to come fix the problem. You have to come knock on their door and say, "Excuse me, I think you stole my shit." But that is where that end. With respect to the FRT seized or surrendered in connection, the return of these shall be in full settlement and satisfaction of all claims, and all causes of action that could result from their seizure and inclusion. So they're like, well, that just you're giving up all your claims. They say this paragraph doesn't apply to FRTs or evidence of criminal investigations. Fair enough. They also say that they all agree to hold harmless and fully and finally release the United States and all of its agencies, but not limited to the ATF, the Marshal Service, and any other federal, state, and local authorities, their agencies, agents, officers, and employees of servants from any claims. Guys, this is known as a complete disclaimer of liability. Okay. And they say, finally, they waive all rights and claims under constitutional, statutory, or otherwise with respect to these. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Rare Breed, DeMonico, and Maxwell agree they will not develop or design FRTs for use in any handgun. But wait, why does that matter? It's not a machine gun, so who cares? Well, the government shows their true skins again, chat. Notice you can't just go, because you know what? It's not a switchy. But yeah, apparently you can't do it for guns. They also claim these guys will not market it. Now, here's the thing that gets a little fucking weird. This is the thing that gets a little weird here, chat. Oh yeah, YouTube is apparently really shitting the bed, chat. Sorry. Nothing I can do about it. Jefferson Post says, hanging in here since YouTube choked. I appreciate it. Guys, go over to Kick. Get me in the creator program. Let's get some subs over there. Now, here's where it gets interesting for everybody. Okay. Rare Breed, DeMonico, and Kevin Maxwell agree to take all reasonable efforts to engage in patent enforcement seeking prohibitory injunctions against any person or entity that manufactures, sells, or distributes any FRT during the life of U.S. patent number, and we're going to refer this to 223 patent, provided Rare Breed have a good faith argument the device is within the scope of their patent. Notice they have to go forward and engage in this. That's a weird thing. This was really fishy when it happened. And if you guys remember Fudbusters, Matt LaRosier and Ivan covered this on their This Week in Guns when it came out. And you're like, what the hell? What the hell's going on? And what are we talking about here when we look at patent number 223? When we look at patent number 223, we're talking about this. And you're like, oh, wow, that kind of looks like an FRT. It is. Okay, what does it do? Well, it goes bang. Now let's get back to the settlement terms here real quick. But that's what they're looking at. And they say the ATF agrees to process Rare Breed's federal firearms license and will not deny transfer based on the interpretation of FRTs being machine guns. The United States agrees not to enforce 18 U.S.C. 9220. 18 U.S.C. 9220 is the prohibition on any more new machine guns being made for private ownership. This is the Hughes Amendment. We talked about it before. Darcy says, I'm glad YouTube is working for Sean. It's down for me. That's a bummer. Sorry, you guys all can't get in. But they talked about the NFA, the Gun Control Act, and the Hughes Amendment to the Firearms Owners Protection Act, or any similar statute under which the FRT is contended to be a machine gun or otherwise unlawful against any person or organization for possessing or transfers FRTs under the two following conditions. The FRTs have the mode of operation described in the case of Nagger versus Garland as follows. The FRT is forcibly reset from its forward reset state after each round fired. The FRT is locked mechanically in the reset state, preventing the trigger from moving until the firearm is safe to fire. And then it says 3, the hammer must be released from its sear surface for every round fired, which is a way to establish that it's semi-automatic. The trigger in an FRT-equipped firearm must reset after every round fired. Yes, that makes it not a machine gun. And preventing the reset will cause a weapon to malfunction. Yes, and that's true. You cannot mess with it as it works. You cannot mess with it. It will not just run on its own. There also can't be designed to be used in handguns. Like, well, it's other people have figured that out already. And then the U.S. says it'll hold everybody here harmless. They also agree to hold harmless and release the United States and its agencies and employees from every kind of claim. The U.S. agrees to consider filing statements in support of rare breed civil actions for injunctions against patent violators. They agree to consider it. Notice they're going to agree to help you out. It's like a government monopoly at that point. They also, Rare Breed agrees to promote the safe and responsible use of its devices. Gay, boring. Who really wants that? Who really wants that? They keep going here. This law is governed by the laws of the United States. The exclusive venue for any dispute relating to this agreement, meaning its venue, is the Northern District of Texas. Notice they also talk about this agreement drafted by all parties. That means that nobody can claim they didn't understand what was going on. Dr. Nick says he can't believe this is illegal. Well, you best believe. And this is all signed out. Once again, Kevin Maxwell, Lawrence DeMonico, a couple of faggots, and a bunch of names you guys see on here for different things. Like Hannah Hill, the vice president for NAGR. You're like, I follow her on Twitter. It's like, what the fuck? And then Yakov Roth, the most Protestant name ever. Most Protestant name ever. These are all signed as counterparts. So here we go. So these are all the parties involved. These are all the cases involved. And that's it. That's it. So what happened from there? Well, since this all started, everybody started making fucking FRTs. This is the Disruptor from Mars Tactical. This is, God, whose is this? I think this is Peak Tacticals. We got all kinds of force reset triggers out there, chat. All kinds of force reset triggers. Everybody's making one. Everybody's making one and getting it done. And then we have Hoffman Tactical. Hoffman Tactical is a designer. He made a really neat 3D printed AR-15 called the Orca. If I can, I'll show it here real quick. Right up here, this is the Orca. It's 3D printed. It's pretty based. But what he invented is called the Super Safety. And notice, unlike Rare Breed, Rare Breed made this. You're like, okay. What did Hoffman Tactical make? This. Joe Gnome says, do you own a Duratec 4-way Silcock key with a bit? No. But I need to get those Silcock keys. You also need to go buy those sets of 100 heavy machinery keys you can buy. Is that a bathroom faucet? No. No. No, it's not. Um, yes, and unlike Rare Breed, Hoffman Tactical is not cooperating with the feds. Tim says it looks like a sear, but it's not. It's not a sear. It doesn't do anything at all. It's a different variation. It's a very simplified force reset trigger piece, and it operates on a very, very simplified principle. So his is a little different, obviously. But what happened in the aftermath of all of this? Well, guess what Rare Breed started doing? They started filing motherfucking lawsuits. Get Rare Breed Triggers versus DNT, also known as D's Nuts Tactical, and that's literally its name. The D's Nuts Tactical. So they sued. They're suing all over the country. The District of Idaho. They're suing, Dairyland Defense Solutions in the Eastern District of Wisconsin. Notice the dates on this, like the dates they file on these things. The date filed June 13th. Like they're on the warpath. They are on the warpath. They sued Big Daddy Enterprise. This is a big lawsuit they're in right now. This is a big one they got into because they sued a lot of different people. We're doing all kinds of trigger groups and trigger different things. They're also in the District of Arizona. They're in a couple different other places too, including the Middle District of North Carolina. They sued a bunch of other places too. They sued Cloak Industries. Notice these are getting a little more and more into the modern, the past month or two. This is another one, Mars Triggers. This is January 12th. And then this one here is ABC IP LLC versus Cope. And it's what we're doing. We're coping, chat. Sellers say, did the settlement exclude licensing? Not necessarily, but here's what I'll tell you. The people running Rare Breed are fucking assholes, so I don't think they'd license it. They would just be dickheads about it. So, no, the licensing isn't really an issue here. So, ultimately, what happened? Well, Rare Breed went after Hoffman Tactical. Among other things, they went after a bunch of different people here. But they sued Hoffman. And they point out that these are the companies that are involved here. And this is one of the bigger ones that's still ongoing. Yeah, if you have an AR, you got to run the super safety. They're cheap and super fun. Neat thing is you can 3D print the super safety. But that's between us girls. You can do that. You can totally do that. So, but this is against Hoffman Tactical, and Hoffman Tactical is accused of infringing on a couple different patents here. So there's a couple different patents they're talking about. 784, 723. Okay, so here are a couple of different patents. And guys, we've gone through patents before. Patents have a standard format that they follow. And you see when they refer to these patents as the 247 patent, what they're talking about is the last three numbers. So that's the easiest way to describe it. Oh, I didn't realize my camera was off. Sorry, chat. So they talk about this here. What was this one done? Well, this was done, and it was filed on May 30th, 2023. Then they say, what is it? It's a trigger mechanism that can be used in AR pattern firearms. Has a spring, a trigger member, a disconnector, a cam, and a 3-position safety selector. Okay. So what's it look like? And you're like, well, I can't tell what this looks like. And that's okay, chat. We'll back out. But this is what it all looks like inside of an AR-15. This is the technical drawing. A bunch of different patents are cited, and you're allowed to cite patents as you go here. If you guys have seen big things on here, if you see Geisley, the trigger empire, the trigger king himself, Bill Geisley, doing all that stuff there. You see things from like Barrett, all different kinds of things. You'll see names you recognize if you're paying attention. Now they show the picture of the patent. So here's the 247 patent. You're like, okay, okay. Here's the backside of it, and you're like, all right, all right. Now notice this safety lever here, because this is part of the safety lever on an AR-15, the safety selector. All right, so look at that stuff. You're gonna be like, well, wait, how are these things all similar? There's a gajillion parts in this versus the Hoffman tactical thing. It's like, yeah. We're working on that. We're working. Yes, Bill Geisley, the base Pennsylvanian man. Yes. This is the setup that they have, and it just shows you how it's all drawn out. Now you might say, wow, these are better drawing pictures. Yes, this is what modern technology can do compared to old traditional drawings. Here's the 784 patent. You're like, well, what the fuck is the difference with all these? These are different force reset trigger mechanisms and different things for what they work on. So here's a variation of some things. Stop yawning. Yeah, well, Radcat says I can see why they have a case. Well, remember, they're claiming this somehow is infringing on this. Somehow it is. Somehow it is. And this is it being all set together. Here's it all putting, and if you guys aren't sure, this is an AR-15 bolt. You can see how it's drawn out like that. Anyways, this is what they're putting together. And you can see all these different parts and pieces. Okay. So it's the adapted force reset trigger. All right. All right. Now, EDW Raptor saying, wishing you a blessed and happy Ramadan. Well, thank you. Alhamdulillah. 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 Nothing but the glory to God. Now, this is now, how they talk about here how this works and what it does. And then finally we get to the last patent here that they're talking about. The 723 patent. You're like, well, what is this stuff? And you're like, oh, that looks a little interesting. And you might say, for those of you who, are, how does this all work? Well, these have a lot of moving pieces and parts, but this is the main body for it. And you're like, if you guys know, you're like, wow, that kind of looks like a drop-in autosphere. It kind of does how it's like set up shape-wise. Isn't it kind of funny like that? Like if you had showed up at a gun range with one of these 30 years ago, people would have thought you had a drop-in autosphere you made in your garage. Even the ATF probably would have arrested you. But it talks about everything it's doing here. So they're suing Matt Hoffman, arguing this is all of that. And why does this become more important? Because ultimately, there was a settlement agreement allegedly here between Matt Hoffman, where we triggers, why I call Matt Hoffman and Tim Hoffman. So they point out here that, even at the time back in 2023, Hoffman was well known for doing 3D printed stuff. You're like, okay. He designed an assembly of, He designed an assembly of 3D printed parts that could use only in combination with his lower design, with a standard AR pattern, hammer, and a trigger to replace a disconnector and add a locking bar. What are they doing? Well, they accused Matt Hoffman of inducing infringement of his 223 design, because he provided a 3D CAD file that allowed others to print the parts. And the files for the super safety are available all over the internet if you want to go look for them and print one. They point out said Hoffman was not aware his activity may have constituted inducing infringement. And they say, however, upon notice from Rare Breed, Hoffman immediately ceased distribution of the complained CAD files, as Hoffman sees nothing gained by either party from a dispute. So what do? Well, ultimately, he agrees not to make, have made, or offer for sale any product or device that infringes on the claim of the 223 patent. Okay. There's mutual releases here that everybody's released from any liability for further things that they can do with each other. There's unique resolution because of the unique resolution on this, and the above release is without requirement of monetary compensation. Um, and it's not indicative of reasonable royalties or actual infringement damages. Yeah, it's a very unique situation here. These guys are all going their own way. And why? Because of his immediate cooperation and amicable resolution. Well, sounds like he probably wasn't in a position to fight him too much. They point out that ABC warrants it as the sole owner of all right, title, and interest to the patent. Yeah. Rare Breed represents and warrants it as the exclusive right to sell on that patent, and it does. Nobody's questioning that. Each party represents that he has the right, power, and authority to exercise, deliver, and perform its obligations under this agreement. And that neither the execution of this agreement nor the performance will constitute a breach in terms of provisions of any contract or violate the rights of any third party. So this last part is just saying, I promise that by doing this, I'm not going to get in trouble and get me into another like if I have a contract that says I can't enter into contracts like this, and if I do, I'm now in breach. Well, if that was the case, I would have the right to say, we can't do that. You can't force me to break another contract. If there was another contract, I would have the right to say, well, I have to deal with this. We need a different plan here. So that is kind of one thing we're dealing with right there. Guys, give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second, chat. Sorry. Sorry, chat. I'm back. Sleep streaming again. No. So where does this go from here? Now, they're promising, look, by doing this, we're not breaking anybody else's rights. And I need that "we'll be right back" card. Yeah. Now, what did they say? This agreement shall terminate upon the expiration of the 223 patent or upon all claims of the patent are held invalid by a court or body of final review or appeal. Now, remember, this is something that I've talked about before. I am not the patent guru, but I mentioned to you this before, guys. When you have a patent, that doesn't mean you're safe. The fact you get a patent is not a guarantee you're bulletproof. You could get your patent reviewed later. And now there's multiple people challenging and showing why it's garbage. The patent board, well, actually, more at that point, a federal court's going to go, yeah, that's bullshit. It's not a patent anymore. Sorry, you lose it. There's different appeals and challenges that can be made to different, a circuit court. You know, for example, if you try a federal court, you could appeal to a circuit court and they could say, you're right, this isn't a patent. There are multiple ways patents can get challenged. Just because you have a patent doesn't mean you're bulletproof. Are you very much hard to kill? Yes, but everything can, as Arnold told us, if it bleeds, we can kill it, which is true. But patents are tough. Overall. So here's my uncivil law. You say the word patent and Kurt appears. Hi, Kurt. How you doing, man? Friend of the show, friend of the channel. Did I say that correctly though, Kurt? Yes. Patents are not bulletproof. They can always be attacked. It's very tough to attack them though. Yes, engineers with law degrees is how you get patent lawyers. Also, remember, Chad, if you weren't aware, to become a patent attorney, licensed to the patent bar, which is a separate bar admission requirement. You need to have a hard science degree in addition to your law degree. So engineering, chemistry, physics, you need a hard science degree to get that. So yes, I am the patent holder now. Pretty much, it can happen that way. Now, the rest of this isn't really an issue here, but it just explains what's going on by Cole LaLue, Lawrence DeMonico, faggots, and then Tim Hoffman from Hoffman Tactical doing God's work. So, such a good boy. And then lose air. Now, this is something that's been out there for a while. Now, why is all this important? Why is all this important here? Well, ultimately, this goes on to talk about how these parties are all set up. Now, it's because it's a patent infringement case. I almost said copyright. Ugh. It's a patent infringement case, chat. We are in federal court. It's exclusive federal jurisdiction on this. Sean's eyes itch because he's on low magnesium. Ew, pumpkin seeds. Like people who eat pumpkin soup. This is nasty. But talking about ABC's a limited liability company out of Delaware. Rare breed of scum is out of Tejas now. And they say upon information and belief, Hoffman Tactical's out of Tennessee. And they say Hoffman Tactical conducts a business operating as website www.hoffmantactical.com. And if you notice, chat, where it talks about everything here, the super safety, temporarily unavailable. The LR308 safety is temporarily unavailable. If you'd like to use another manufacturing method, such as machining or metal printing to make one, a developer pack has been released, which contains all the step files. Well, that's temporarily unavailable. Why? Well, you see, sales have been postponed, downloads have been suspended for now. And this goes back a ways, and notice we're way past 213, and we're going to get to that. We're going to get to what's going on here, chat, but just so you understand what we're dealing with here. So I talk about the jurisdiction here. It's patent infringement, so federal courts have it. It also says the United States District Court shall have original jurisdiction of any civil action arising under any act of Congress relating to patents. They have personal jurisdiction. He resides here. Remember, that's the easiest way to go sue someone. Sue them where they live because they have personal jurisdiction there. Also, it helps that he has a business or established place of business in that district. So it talks about the patents at 247, 784, and 723 patent. And it talks about what's going on here. And they say, and now guys, remember the time span for patents as well. A utility patent, and there's two different types here of patents you can have. You can have a utility patent. You can also have a design patent. A utility patent is usually I think it's 20 years. And then there's utility patents like a new functional invention, like it's an actual thing. Then there's design patents, like you kind of improve on something. Sometimes it's non-functional. There's just other stuff you can add to it. Those are like 10 or 15 years, I think. I don't know. Kirk can tell me if I'm wrong how that works. But you get a long time, chat. Remember, patents are protected in the Constitution. They are there. Kurt says 3. Don't forget the plant patents. Everyone forgets the plant. What the hell is a is that where you can make like GMOs and shit like that? Well, like Monsanto can make stuff. So I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, proprietary seeds. Yeah, that stuff. Now, with all of that, they're going on here. But yeah, you have roughly about 15, 20 years on these. Yes, cord patents are notorious to some cliques. Yeah, and that's where it does happen every once in a while where like a farmer's growing crops in field A and the crops pollinate and they blow over into field B and start growing. Well, they now sue the farmer in field B because he never paid for the seeds. And now the special crops are growing in his field. Yes, patents are 20 years from data filing, assuming you pay the maintenance fees. Yes. And there are fees, chat, you have to pay on top of. You have to. It's just like filing a lien. You have to stay on top of it and keep showing. You can't just. You don't just get to file it once and you're done. Now, this goes on to show here that these patents were properly issued by the 247 patent was lawfully and properly issued in 2024. The application claimed a priority date of September 8th, 2022. So you go back to the date of when the patent you apply for. The 784 patent was applied back in 2021. The 723 patent was from back in 2003. So I was going to say, Kurt, wouldn't this one have already expired by now? Because you can't renew patents. And yes, Shinobu, yes. Getting your patent approved is fucking arduous and costs a lot of money. The maintenance fees aren't bad, but it's the little things that get you. So, and they currently say, 723 patent expired 2024. Perfect. I was about to say, we didn't get that far yet. Now they point out that, now here's the thing. It's expired, yes, but before it expired, he infringed on the patent. So they say on August 15, 2025, defendants posted a video on YouTube discussing Hoffman's purported knowledge of copyright infringement claims brought versus the Rare Breed Triggers versus These Nuts Tactical et al. In the District of Idaho, which discusses the claims and details they apply and demonstrating his knowledge of the claims in the 247 and 723 patents. So yeah, this is Tim Hoffman talked about this stuff. Hoffman talked about all these things, and it's like, when you display your knowledge, you could sometimes, are you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy? So on March 3rd, 2025, Hoffman posted a file on Odyssey where you can find all kinds of 3D shit. Chat, seriously, if you need to find 3D printed files, go to Odyssey. And he did it for a lever for use in a force reset trigger for a 308 AR platform, which, if you guys were not aware, in a 308 AR-15, an AR-10 patterned platform is the AR-15 scaled. Well, actually, the original AR-15s, you can get those in 308. They scaled it down to 5.56. So it's more of like the original caliber. You require different equipment. It's a little bit bigger. It's more robust as it goes. And they claim it's infringing on the super safety. The release of the infringing 308 super safety was almost a year after the issuance of the 784 patent, and more than 3 years after its priority date of it being filed. This is the 308 one. This is the big boy. It's the chonky one. They say they committed direct and indirect infringement. They claim that defendants have known about the portfolio for years. And it says, although plaintiffs have not asserted U.S. patent in this action, The prior infringement is directly relevant to their knowledge of the force reset trigger patent portfolio, their intent, and their willful disregard of the patent rights. They point out ABC is the assignee of the 223 patent, and Rare Breed is the exclusive licensee of the 223 patent. So remember, the assignee is a person the patent gets assigned to, and then I can license it out, and ABC and Rare Breed are basically working together there. So they say that in early 2022, they found out that Hoffman was doing the 3D printable modification that effectively converted triggers into force reset triggers. So they sent a cease and desist letter, and after negotiations, they agreed to enter and resolve the dispute. They explicitly warned Hoffman if he intended to remain in the active force reset trigger space, he must consult qualified patent counsel to review patents to avoid further infringement. I mean, that's how you have to do it. That's why you have to do it. Kurt's like, I remember why I stopped doing this. Trump once says AR-10 is a gayest way to use 7.62 NATO. No, it's why? What? You want to use an M14 pattern rifle? Those are gay. Like the AR-10 SR-25 platform. Are you going to sit here and tell me you don't like the SR-25 and it's garbage? Because everybody knows you're lying if you're saying that. The SR-25 is fucking amazing. Just saying here. Yeah. Commando Kodiak says M14s are a nightmare. I mean, they're cool looking and sexy looking, and it's kind of like the Garand, the 308 Garand, pretty fucking nifty. But like, I'm just saying, the SAR-25, no, the SR-25 says metric cope detected. Yes, well, Makita says the foul supremacy. Well, yeah, there is that too. And yes, the SR-25 does fuck. And yes, we all want the Cuban and Portuguese AR-10s. Yes, chat, there were AR-10s that were sold to the Batista regime. And then there were a bunch of AR-10s that went to the Portuguese military that were in like Mozambique. And what was it? What was the other? Mozambique and Madagascar doing fucking work. If you guys didn't know that was like Portugal's Vietnam. Like they dealt with a communist insurgency. Obviously, the commies ended up winning. But like, if you read up on that and see the pictures of it, there was some. They got into some. That was some like Bush. Same time as Rhodesia and all that. There was some Bush war going on. So, plaintiffs also advised Hoffman he could reach out any time, and they would provide him copies of their patents, including issued patents and published applications, to assist him in avoiding future infringement. It's just like Ned Flanders. He's like, I'm going to leave this number for the box company here, just so you know not to call it. During the negotiations, Hoffman said he had ideas to get around the patents, or words to that effect. It looks like he's getting around your patent. That's pretty simplified. That is pretty simplified. So, I mean, that's pretty simplified. Yes, he had a way to get around it, and I think he did. Thus, on the date of the release of the infringing design, they knew or should have known about the 723 patent. They see on March 6th, defendants posted a video titled Rare Breed C and D Letter, What Happened in Moving Forward. And in that video, Hoffman informs the viewers the files that they admit to removing from their site are still available if you know where to look. Well, yeah, he's just saying it's out there. He can't stop you. And attempted to subvert the patent system by instructing viewers to search out the files from which they removed download links. Now, Kurt, if you're out there, what's the statute of limitations on this? Are they going to argue that it's like an ongoing infringement? But it's like, yeah, if it's like search around the internet, you can find the infringing shit, which you can still. It's all out there, chat. It's all out there. So they talk about the video here. You can still find it. They say the infringement of their patent, the receipt of the formal notice, all this establishes they have been unclear and an ambiguous notice of the intellectual property rights in February 2022. Oh, we got some Raiders. Hi, hello, Raiders. Hello. Hello, hello, people. So, 10 years ago, set me's were sub $400. Yeah, well, they still can be because you can do the Amigo Grande, which is what I'm going to try to do here. Because, by the way, chat, um, my 3D printer head, any cubic actually, like the guys in China sent me one, for the $10 I sent in. So it's like I could start printing again. It's cool. Yes, hi. Yep. Guys, visit Dolly Talk and Hella, friends of the show. Yep. Thank you guys so much for being in here. Appreciate it. So, he talked about the, efforts to instruct their viewers on searching out the infringing files. Yeah, but it's been a couple of years. It's been a couple of years. And they say certainly in a reasonable search for patents or owned or assigned would have identified the patent. Or in the year before the 3D print and step files for the super safety, or publicly displayed their use of the super safety. You just got your 3D print, you're loving it, the Bamboo P1. Yeah. Well, I just still have the Anycubic Cobra. So I'm happy with mine working again. It will be working tonight once I fix it. Radcon says if you were to 3D print a safety wind chime for your wife, would you use PLA nylon or funny third material? Mine's only going to be able to handle PLA plus. I don't have a printer that's able to use nylon. I think it would probably kill this. Mine's not ready for that. I would have to get a new printer for that. And they say that though they demonstrated at a minimum reckless disregard for constitutional rights of intellectual property protection, if not blatant, willful. I mean, blatantly. It should be probably blatantly willful. I'm just gonna be that guy right now. Blatantly willful infringement. Just saying blatant willful infringement that doesn't make a whole lot of sense there. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So Dr. J says get a Centauri Carbon 2. I've thought about that maybe. Maybe I'll try something like that. I don't know. I've thought about different kinds. Maybe some point here soon. And then Hella excited others for 50 Australian dollary doodles. Is that really is that a real amount of money? Says this goes directly to 2.0's birthday fund. Well, thank you, Hella. I appreciate it. Who's messaging me? Nobody is. Okay. So they point out, like, basically he knew and should have known what he was doing here. And they say on April 6th, representatives of Rare Breed had a telephone call with Hoffman. During that call, Hoffman admitted the infringing devices infringe on the claims of the patents. Why the fuck would you do that? Why would you do that? That is retarded. Don't do it. Plaintiffs allege that Hoffman, at a minimum, made a statement regarding his thoughts on the patents, as evidenced by the screenshots from social media below. You think you'd recorded this phone call because you probably could have. But he says it clears something up. I have not admitted to the super. Oh, on my birthday too. The super safety infringing on patents. It does not. This rumor arose from a statement I made on what I thought was a private phone call being taken out of context. You notice they don't offer the phone call though as a thing here, but he should have recorded that phone call himself. He should have recorded that phone call himself. Protect himself. Do it if it's legal. Consult with an attorney where you live. Then later this year on August 9th, representatives of the plaintiffs approached Hoffman at the Hoffman Tactical booth during the Gun Owners of America group you should support, chat. They do God's work. At the Gun Owners Advocacy and Leadership Summit goals, praise the goal, bless the goal, in Knoxville, Tennessee. During this in-person discussion, Hoffman made a series of statements that confirm his longstanding knowledge of the patent rights. So they say, Hoffman stated unequivocally he does not believe in patents. It's a very libertarian approach, but yes, many libertarians do not believe in patents. But they believe in you, and I think patents do have a valuable role. And that no one should have a patent. Okay, yeah, that ain't going to work that way. You're going to stifle development. There's a reason why the West has done better than the East. There's a reason why in the East they don't believe in intellectual property and why they're a disaster zone. He said that no company should be permitted to exclude others from a market, regardless of patent rights. Yeah, I disagree. He further explained in his personal philosophy, a company's success or failure should solely depend on its business model and marketing, not on the lawful protections afforded by the U.S. patent system. Yeah. I really didn't say that because that's not at all correct. That's not all correct. Hoffman also admitted he intentionally released the super safety files to the public because he intended to do the masses as guinea pigs. He wanted the widespread distribution and the sale of the design by numerous companies to overwhelm the market and make enforcement of patent rights difficult, if not impossible. That is a base way of fucking with people. And remember, Rare Breed are a bunch of assholes, so I don't feel too bad for them. But just the idea that I don't believe in patents because of my libertarianism, yeah, that fucking dog don't hunt with me. That fucking dog don't hunt. He said this strategy was designed to cause market saturation, impairing ability to pursue infringers. And it goes on here. He stated that he had already arranged for the super safety to be manufactured using the best metal injection molding techniques, sir. And once the market becomes sufficiently saturated with unlicensed copies and derivative works, he planned to swoop in and dominate the market. He knows that many people selling the infringing devices were involved in importing them from China. They offered no warranty and failed to deliver products to customers. Well, you can just print this shit out on your own, though. It wasn't that hard. It's not that hard. Like, I don't understand what the problem is here. So, wow, still only 200. God, YouTube is really crashing and burning tonight. They combined with this ability to offer the lowest price super safety product available. And they said that's a calculated plan to circumvent patent rights that subvert Article 1, Section 8 of my Constitution and profit from a market he intentionally destabilized. So mean, so mean. He tried to dilute their lawful monopolies as it goes here. Now, here's how this works, the inventions. It's a semi-automatic trigger that forces the reset via a cam. It claims a method of accelerating the firing cycle using a trigger mechanism. Yes, it's how a force reset trigger works, basically in one sentence. But if you don't understand any of that, like I said, I tried to explain it to you earlier, how that kind of works. It's basically like a bump stock inside the gun. And it says Patent 247 provides a novel device for accelerating the firing sequence of any semi-automatic firearm. And it can allow an accelerated rate. And you can, operate it in standard semi-auto or the forced reset semi-auto and uses a cam. Rotated by cycling of the action to force the trigger member to reset and prevent it from being pulled again until it has returned into the in battery position. And if you guys don't know what a battery means, that just means when the bolt of a firearm has fully engaged and it's properly ready to fire. So the round is fully chambered and seated. The bolt has locked in or done whatever locking process it has to do, and it's properly ready to fire. Because you don't want the gun going off when the round is not fully chambered because it can then explode and blow out the sides. Outer Pangea, how you doing, buddy? He says it's pretty interesting technology. Oh, yeah, it is. It's totally cool. It's totally cool. And the neat thing is you can print it. You can print a super safety. How you doing, guys? See him on Crapcast and Trash Compactor and also on Newscast with Lord Raptor Jesus just dabbing on the death of the dabbing on the death of Comicsgate. Now they point out the 247 patent may be adapted to all kinds of guns. The 247 patent shows the embodiment designs a drop-in replacement for AR-15 patterns, which true it is. It's true that it is. Yes, all my homies hate Rare Breed, yes. Now I say the typical AR-15 and AR-10 patterns, and guys, they're relatively the same thing, just scaling it up. are considered semi-automatics. The operation of a standard disconnect AR pattern trigger mechanism is commenced by the trigger member being pulled by the user. I wish I could show this, but I don't know if I can. How this all works. I don't know. Hold on here. Let's see if I can find a let me see here. Oh, this might work. This might work. Yeah, actually, this will work here. Okay, this will work. Okay, chat. So here's how this works. Okay, so this is kind of going all the way out the gun. Here's how it works. The trigger goes forward, smacks into the firing pin, and then everything goes from there. So I hope DSP is floating on our YouTube right now. Yeah. So that's kind of the basics. If you guys haven't seen it, it's hard to explain all this and how it works. I'm trying to do it in a way that makes sense here, but it's only so much you could do. Yeah, it just works. It just works. So this whole thing here. This is the actual technical way to describe how an AR-15 or an AR-10 operates. They say in the standard, the purpose of the disconnector is to hold the hammer in a cock position until the trigger is reset by a trigger spring. When the user allows the trigger to reset. So if you've ever listened to people when they're shooting at a range, like if they're doing just practiced firing with an AR-15, you'll hear them go bang, and you'll hear click, and you're letting the trigger just reset far enough that you can then pull the trigger again. But you'll hear them, and they'll go click, bang. Just letting the slack out a little there. Now, the guys, like I said, if you don't know guns, it's okay. But the rest of us, yes. Disconnector allows the firearm to be fired only a single time because the user's not able to manually reset the trigger rapidly enough. And that's the thing. It's meant that you can't fire fast enough. The gun's operating too fast. Now, the disconnector prevents the firearm from either firing multiple rounds or allowing the hammer simply to follow, which is a problem. Hammer follow is an issue. It is a malfunction in an AR-15 system. I think you can have hammer follow on an AK. But basically, the hammer is not stuck as the bolt cycling. The bolt cycles and the hammer just goes, follows it. And it can cause problems. Now they point out that the force reset trigger is cycling the bolt or bolt carrier. It causes the trigger to be forced to the reset position and locks the trigger member in this position until the bolt is back in battery. And then when it's safe, you pull the trigger again without the need for a disconnector. So you're kind of finding ways. Once again, remember, this is all about how can I make something as close to a machine gun without violating that rule. Remember, the golden rule of machine gun is multiple shots and one pull the trigger. How do I make sure the trigger's being pulled every time? And is it just going really fast? Because remember, part of the issue with the bump stock. Well, it's not that it's an automatic, like other places and arguments were made. Well, it's not that it's a machine gun. It just shoots really, really fast. Yes, I know PLA's garbage. Maybe I'll get a better thing soon. John Crump News. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you here. Well, we're going to get into some of that newer news that came up over the week or at the end of the week last week. But guys, John Crump News, you guys follow him over here on YouTube. He does good work over here. Second Amendment stuff. Let's even pull up. Why is it not loading up here? Yeah, hold on. Also, guys, yeah, apparently he's also talking about Alito today, which Alito might be quitting. But anyways, John Crump News. He's on his way to 100K, chat. On his way to 100K. 61,000 subs. So if you guys want to show him some love out there, you can. You can show him some love out there. Yeah, I saw Shia LaBeouf. We'll cover that on Thursday. We'll cover him on Thursday. They say the 723 patent teaches a trigger mechanism where the cycling action of the firearm causing the cam to forcibly reset. the trigger member, and it locks it there. So remember, this is all about finding ways to, once again, just speed up the process and take advantage of things. Because as you shoot, and I wish I could show you guys, but if you Google people using rare breeds or even the super safety, you get burnt out of it. You can. Now, these patents all do the same thing. We're not really like, as I said, these are all about how can I make this act like a machine gun without making it a machine gun. Remember, the ATF gave you those rules. A machine gun does this. If it doesn't do that, it's not a machine gun. So we just have to make sure we don't do that thing. So I talked about the infringing devices, and this is where, Hoffman's currently making, importing, selling, using one or more versions of the infringing devices. It talks about the free downloads for them. And they say on information of belief, he has had or made them imported, sold, or offered on his website. And yeah, he talks about him here where you could download them. You can go find them on Odyssey. No, he's not even charging. He's like, just let it out there. Just let him go out there and do it. They provide the design for a cam and cam lever that replaces the safety selector. And when they're installed with and notice, unlike rare breed stuff, these are installed in combination with a standard AR pattern hammer and disconnector with standard springs. Yeah, notice that. This is all it takes. I wasn't joking. And you guys, even rare breed admits, this guy simplified our design. He took this nonsense. Tim Hoffman took, why do I keep saying Matt? Rare breed came up with all this shit. Notice they have a safety selector and all this and pins, all that. Okay, cool. What did Tim Hoffman do? He's like, I could do it even better. Right there. Bop, done. And that's an enhancement. That is literally, he came up with a new way to do it. He didn't have to develop a brand new trigger cassette. He's like, I just put it together. And they talk about whoever infringes on patents or you're liable as an infringer. He's instructed customers to download and purchase these devices. I mean, yeah, I have one of them, and I never got the chance to use it lately. But yeah, you could put it in, and the way it works, it operates like a safety. And yeah, you push it in one side, and it's semi-auto only. You push it all the way through, it's the super safety. If you put it in the middle, it's got, notice it's got these little cuts in it. And that's how it works. The infringing devices also operate in disconnector mode, which is like that of a standard trigger. Yes, and Runkle, we got to that part. Yeah, we talked about their settlement here. Where they where is it? Yeah. Yeah, we talked about this here, yes. These guys agreed to sell their soul to the ATF. Guys, Runkle the Bailey, friend of the show, hopefully a friend of yours too. Doing what he can in the Great White North, and God, I feel bad for you guys up there. The onslaught's probably not getting any better with how things are going, but yeah, guys, show Runkle some love if you get the chance. Show him some love. But anyways, yeah, remember, this is what they're doing. They're arguing, we have to do this. Runkle says, I feel bad for me too. Well, yes, Rare Breed is friend of the ATF. They're not friend of the show. Are there enemies of the show? Yes, but you could figure them out. We don't need to necessarily name them. We know who takes shots at us, so it's all right. We know who they are. We know who they are. Oh, who's messaging me? Oh, nobody's messaging me. Okay. Yeah, YouTube is really broken tonight, it sounds like. So they say the user can slide the cam between safe, standard semi-automatic, and forced reset semi-auto modes. Yep. So it's got a great thing. Like I said, it could be super safe. Or you could just go pew, pew, pew. Or you can go burr. You have three options. And literally you just push it through from side to side. It's not like an AR-15 where you have the little selector lever. You just boop, boop, boop through. It's kind of like a BB gun in a way. So they're arguing that these are all infringing. They're arguing that there's unfair competition, defamation, and tortious interference. They talk about unfair competition under the Lanham Act, where goods or services, there's false or misleading descriptors of it. They said they've posted online videos relating to the non-infringement of the devices using factually and legally incorrect. Notice they'd be like, factually accurate. No, COG, not today. They say upon information, belief, dependence, and further supported, incited and posted comments relating to their applicability. These devices were false. And they point that out here. So what do? Well, they're saying, check out the patents. We're not infringing on them. These statements were false and defamatory. No, you guys sucking the ATF's dick is defamatory. You shit-healing fucks. Selling it out for your shekels. Selling out for your shekels. That's defamatory. They've injured the plaintiff's character and reputation. I'd argue sucking the ATF's dick is going to ruin your reputation. That's going to ruin your reputation because all I know is you guys are faggots. You guys are faggots. That's all I know about you guys now. It is what it is. It is what it is, chat. Yes. Yes. Real big fish. Real Big Fish wrote a song about you guys. They saw into the future. Outer Pangea says, hail the chat. Yes. Hail the chat. Total sellouts, I know. Total sellouts. And it says, these statements were false and published with their false, defamatory, and reckless disregard. They have caused actual damages in the form of injury to the character and reputation. I can't wait for the fucking depositions on that one. I can't wait for the depositions on this one. You don't think selling out, like, Mr. DeMonico, how do you think people view the ATF? Well, I think they're heckin' great. I can't wait for those depositions. I can't wait for those. Yes, yeah, Runkle's, yes, rare breed is being used as a condom by the ATF is pretty much correct. They just stretched out rare breed over their dick and then tried to fuck the Second Amendment community. So, with a rare breed condom. So they've also tried to claim they've attempted to affect the relationship between plaintiff and the relevant market, the consumers, by offering their infringing designs at less cost for free. I mean, how do you beat free? How do you beat free? Yes. In an effort to divert customers. So the count one is the infringing of the 2247 patent, and we're going to go through all that. Guys, here, look, this is an example of the super safety. This is it. Not much to it. Not much to it, chat. This is a standard AR-15 trigger component here. I think you have to do a little bit of modification. I forget. But this is the long little stick, and this is the little nubbin that goes up and you push through. You just click, 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 click. The exemplary comparison of the infringing device with Claim 15 of the patent when assembled is in the chart below. So they show you, how does this work? Well, the infringing device. And it says super safety is part of it. And notice, here's how this stuff moves through. These are the super safeties that are 3D printed. And here's how the super safety works. Oh, not sharing? Why is it? Hold on. Oh, why am I? Oh, shit. Hold on, chat. Sorry. Sorry, we went a little far here. Sorry. Here you go. Here you go. Okay, so this, why can't I get there we go. All right, so this is the super safety broken down into parts. AR-15 trigger. I forget if you have to modify a little bit or you can do without it now. This is the safety part, the safety selector, and then this is the nubbin stick that shoots up into the top of the gun. So you guys can't see shit. Well, there you go. All right. Now, as they talk about, here's how it works. Here's super safety printed out. Here's how it actually works. Here's how it works here. Notice, this is all you have to do. This is a standard part. AR-15 hammer, AR-15 trigger, and then you got the disconnect. These are all standard parts. These are all standard parts. And it says the hammer pivots on a transverse hammer pivot axis set and between set and release positions, and the hammer is adapted to be pivoted rearward by rearward movement of the bolt carrier, and that's how it works. So the hammer goes up, smacks the firing pin, bolt comes backwards and knocks it back into the reset position. So yes, as it's being fired, the firing pin's right here, and then down further is the cartridge, and it goes pew off into the world, off into a bunch of 10-year-olds out of school somewhere. The super safety is installed with a trigger in the fire control pocket, and the trigger member pivots on a transverse trigger member pivot axis set. The trigger member brown has a sear, and this is the sear notch as it goes. Yeah, it's like magic. Yeah, the super safety does need a little grinding on mil-spec triggers. Okay, I forgot if it did or not, but there we go. Thank you. And it says the sear of the trigger and the sear catch of the hammer are in the engagement position when they're in their set positions. And notice, guys, they catch right here and they catch right here. That's how they catch. And when you pull the trigger, this part tips up, this part goes back, and then the hammer goes chow forward. That's basically how it all works. And there's springs in here. There are springs that force it to happen. And it says the sear catch and are out of engagement in the release position. Now, I talk about the disconnector in orange is adapted to be mounted to fire. Is bound to be mounted in the fire control mechanism pocket. And they say the disconnector has a hook for engaging the hammer. Yes. And once again, as I said, here's the sear engagement. And it says the super safety has a cam with a cam lobe and lever that is adapted to be movable. Yes, well, Makita, yes, but they have their sear surfaces. And they say this is the super safety put together with the lobe and the lever. I didn't realize it's called a lobe, but anyways, this is the safety part you push from side to side. The cam is movable between a first position and a second position. And it says in the second position, the cam lobe forces the trigger member brown toward the set position when the cam is in the forced reset semi-automatic mode. Yes. You have a strep infection. That sounds awful. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. That was retarding me. Yeah. Fine. Yeah, that's actually the sear. This is just their engagement surface. That's where they meet up. And during at least a part of the cycle in semi-automatic mode, here's how it works. The camera's in the first position. Notice, this is where they're talking about how these parts move. And it says the rearward of the bolt causes the pivoting to catch, and it catches the hammer hook, and once again, they catch here, and they catch here, and they line up. No, not Lisa Loeb. Not Lisa Loeb and the Nine Tails. So, and thereafter, they point out that thereafter the bolt moves forward into battery. And notice what happens. It doesn't allow it to fully, it's going to set here. And they say, which you must release the trigger member. And as he said, if you go online, you can hear it. You pull an AR-15's trigger, bang, and you're clunk. That's the reset. You can hear it and you can actually feel it. It's a very audible reset, a very tactile reset. Now, I talk about what's in the forced reset semi-auto mode. How does that work? The cam's in the second position and forces the trigger member toward the set position. Now, it's going to show you how this works. As this works here, it says the rearward movement of the bolt carrier causes the rearward pivoting of the hammer such that the disconnector is prevented from catching the hammer hook. And how does that work? Because now this is getting activated. Because now this is moved. When you push it over left or right, you've now engaged the bolt carrier. And now that it's putting pressure, it exerts pressure on this whole system. And because of that, it prevents this engagement. Which time a user can pull the trigger to fire the firearm. So notice, because it's a little different how this is set up, because notice the sear down here is still engaged. The sear is still engaged. You just have not this engagement surface there. He points out that this is was evidenced by numerous videos. He instructs his customers to assemble the components, and when a user installs the devices, that's a direct infringement. There are dev packs that were made. You can still find them all over the place. They're all over, chat, if you really want to find it. There's a 784 patent where they talk about here how this works. Once again, this is the super safety going on here. Once again, this is another version of the super safety here that's infringing on stuff. And notice the super safety allows an operator to fire quickly and efficiently. The super safety has been designed to provide the AR-15 pattern firearms that use a mil-spec carrier and fire control group. But super safety, it's what it does here. Now notice how this one operates. It's very similar. It operates as the locking member. It has a first position, which it locks the trigger member against the pulling movement, meaning it's, it blocks the trigger from going. It's like safety. It's very super. They say there's an unlocked position where it does not restrict movement of the trigger. And then the safety is movably supported by a frame. And that's because it's supported by the actual lower receiver of the AR-15. And then you've got, like your AR-15 here. Here's your pistol grip. So that's what they're saying. It's supported by the frame. This is the safety selector. And this is where they're talking about here. This is actually a good drawing on how they want to make it easy for you to follow. This is the top-down view of the safety selector. And they say the super safety has an upward extending portion configured to make actuating contact with the surface of the bolt carrier. Yeah. And notice from here, when it pushes forward, it'll retrip its systems. And notice as this rotates, rotate, the disconnect is already released and the hammer can move forward, because when you guys hear that click noise, that's what's happening here. This disconnect in the surfaces, and you can hear it. It's a clunk. I don't know if I can. Yeah, I'm not going to show it there. Hodor, yeah, in New England, you can marry first cousins. It's actually very common in a lot of New England states. Not a surprise. Yes, if YouTube was based, we could watch animations of videos of these things operating. But if you notice, this is how it operates. It rotates. And this is that part where it catches on the bolt carrier. And then here's the bolt carrier going forward. You got the gas key up here. And there's the bolt carrier. And you got the bolt head here. It's like pew, 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 pew. As it locks in. And they illustrate the upward extending deflectable portion of the lever arms. And yes, it moves. It's moving along. They point out the dovetail joint does not immediately transfer the torque lever to the cam. The lever pivots in the cam until the void is filled. Once the void is filled, the hammer can transfer torque. And it says to the upper and lower contact surfaces. And it says, note the lower contact surface and the upper contact surface are shown to be arbitrary on the dovetail. And this is how you can do super safety. This is all their descriptions. And it says the super safety is now shown deflected independent of the body. And they say these devices also infringe on the 784 patents, which I don't like. Once again, I don't think they did. Targo said, Jesus, a retarded bolt carrier. Yeah. Yes. It goes pew pew. It's a Cronenberger gun. They're also talking about the 723 patent, guys. We're just going through these real quick so you can see. Introducing the super safety. I remember when this came out and I was like, God, this is fucking glowy. Because you know what? I didn't trust it by an ATF. I didn't trust it by an ATF. As we go through it here, here's the super safety in all its glory. You guys have seen it. The defendants have used infringing devices as shown below. Have they? Have they done that? Because once again, here you have it's infringing on so many different things at once. You know, Tim Hoffman's fucking brilliant. He can infringe on multiple patents all at once. Wow, good for him. Good for him. And they talk once again, this is all the same stuff we've gone through here. But once again, how does it figure out how to do all this? You know, we can infringe on all these patents at one time. So, yeah, I was spooked initially by these. Yeah. I had them, they're glowiness to me. So I've been around for a bunch of shit that's actually turned out bad. But as you can see, this is the exact, like, look at all the stuff it does. All the stuff it does. They claim this is infringement on the patent. They say, upon belief, defendants have imported MIM versions of the infringing device, which do exist out there. I don't know why you'd own one of those, especially prior to Trump taking office. I'd only own a 3D printed one, so you could wear it out and throw it away. And they talk about, more importantly, this is all infringement. There's unfair competition under the Lanham Act. You know, they point out that, you know, this unfair competition here. The Tennessee Consumer Protection Act they're going for. They're also suing for defamation. As PewDiePie said, suck my fucking Swedish meatballs. That's still not defamation. As we go through here, guys, this is they point out that they've suffered injuries for their character reputation, which once again, I don't know how much more reputation and character you can have. You guys sold out for the ATF. You fucking ruined yourself. Breach of contract. Well, yes, the settlement they can claim is a breach of contract. A breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. Now, what is that, chat? That's a new one we haven't talked about. Well, that's simple. It's very simple. When you sign a contract, it is implied that you are doing this in good faith. That if you're signing a contract, you intend to abide by the terms of it. You're being in good faith. So it's unlike the debates Rob Noah gets into with all the crazy people who are not in good faith. You're expected to be operating in good faith and in fair dealing, that you're not being sneaky and snivelly. Those are things here. Those are things. And you're like, is that a law? Kind of. Oh. Hodor says, can you get a license like Herrera do fun smithing streams? I would have to have a storefront too. Like, you have to do a storefront to do that stuff. And I'm like, I'd have to find a storefront. Oh, I'll pass. I will pass. So they go through everything here. The violation of the Sherman Act. This is you're like, really? We're going down this road? This is a combination or conspiracy with third parties to restrain trade or commerce. We're doing antitrust actions. Get a CNR. I've thought about getting my CNR. Seller says, do they have to prove reputational damage? Yeah, they're gonna have to prove it. To show harm, yes. Dopey Brian Shapiro. God, that guy's fucking oof. He's trying way too hard. He's gonna girl boss into the sun. And they point out each time somebody downloads the illegal files, based, by the way. Fuck rare breed triggers. And they say defense have either contracted or facilitated others to contract with foreign entities to have infringing devices made abroad. These are the metal, the MIM things here. Yeah, this is how do you prove reputational damage? Well, they're gonna have to prove it. Like, people liked them before, but now they don't anymore. Why? Because of what happened. Because of what happened. You're like, how? I don't know. I really don't think they can. But hey, at a minimum, defendants have exported weapons-related information through the posting of 3D printed files. Notice what they're trying to. This is a shitty thing here. This is a dry snitch that they violated ITAR. This is a shitty fucking thing for Rare Breed to do. Because if you violate ITAR, which is the International Trafficking and Arms Regulation statutes, yes, you can't just send weapons, like files for building weapons and blueprints are considered weapons and controlled items. They're trying to get them fucked on weapons trafficking acts and statutes. So already, even if you didn't think to fuck them enough, fuck them. Fuck them. This is on Alibaba.com. And notice what you can buy on Alibaba.com. A polished metal mill service drilling brooch. So they're talking about violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. They also had violations of the Sherman Act Section 2. We're not going through all that. The tortious interference of business relationships. They point out that Rare Breed has existing and prospective business relationships. And it says the prospective consumer market for forced reset devices. Womp womp. And they're crying that we did that. Violation of Tennessee's unfair sales laws. Remember, so you could bring in your state action claims here. And they say that the unfair sales are they're advertising and preparing to advertise or sell infringing devices at less cost with the intent to induce a purchaser to divert trade. Basically, they're going to put them underwater. And that's not fair, is what they're saying. And this Hoffman Tactical saying trays for spicy things. These actually took a while to design. And these are just them working on different things here. You notice what he's working on are parts and things, the way they're printing it out. And they say, as a result of all this, they've demonstrated intent to market with their own infringing devices, which would steal from them. They want a unlawful restraint and discrimination under the Tennessee state laws. And they want notice of requirement of litigation hold. And so they're saying you have to preserve all records, notes, drawings, documents, data, communications, electronic recordings, everything, edited and unedited raw source material, meaning if you're making YouTube videos, save all that. Or like Smash JT is now learning, if you're fucking around with Chat GPT and asking it legal questions, you have to save those prompts. What a fucking dumbass, by the way. Or reasonably should have known to be relevant. And they say, as above, this is all, we've been through this all before, how this all works. So they want a preliminary injunction ultimately. Well, as things go here, chat, and this is kind of funny how this happened here. In response to this case going, recently, the United States of America, the DOJ, filed a statement of interest on behalf of Rare Breed. And notice what happens here. The ATF got involved. That says the ATF has a strong interest in promoting the safe use of firearms by the public, including with forced reset triggers. Fuck the ATF. And it says the government submits a statement of interest by the court, the ATF's views on public interest considerations for a preliminary injunction, because remember, Rare Breed is seeking an injunction. It says we do not take any position on any of the other factors for granting an injunction. And remember, guys, there are 4 factors for an injunction and how this all works out. But ultimately, there's, as far as the injunctions are concerned, is there a likelihood you will succeed? Is there a public policy consideration? There are other things you have to worry about here. And the government's coming in. And because remember, this isn't the government itself. And we talked about those cases with the Trump administration. Those are not here as far as that goes. But you have to show there's irreparable harm. And well, guess what? If they're if they're not going to stop doing this, we're going to lose all our business, Judge. It's irreparable because people aren't going to buy our stuff anymore. We're likely to succeed. That there's a balance of hardship here, inequities, that the harm is greater. So yes, you have to balance it. And then once again, the ATF saying, hey, we have a public interest. And now they talk about, the plaintiff's forced reset triggers here. And it says the litigation involving classification of trigger mechanisms. And they say post-Cargill, lower courts have been split over the two related accessories. Forced reset triggers and wide open triggers, which are a different kind of thing here, but it's all meant to make your gun shoot faster, are considered machine guns. And there are, it's an entire mess here. It's an entire mess. But once again, they talk about the lawsuit where Rare Breed resolved its lawsuits. And it says the patent protection and injunctive relief. And they point out here that ultimately they want their statement of interest. They want to limit the sale and distribution of FRTs. And they say they want to seek safety of this. Now, they point out here that in Cargill, the ATF exceeded its statutory authority with bump stocks. Yeah, and they're doing it here, too, by fucking around with these. And they're saying, as part of the settlement to prevent the use of forced reset triggers in crime, Rare Breed agreed not to design forced reset triggers for handguns as part of the settlement agreement. Rare Breed also agreed to take all reasonable efforts to enforce its patents and seek injunctions that were going after anybody trying to make an FRT. And they say the settlement, however, does not bind other potential manufacturers who have not agreed to the same limitations. Yes, so if I can make my FRT for a Beretta like some guy has, guess what? I can do whatever the fuck I want. And they point out that the enforcement actions would support the public safety efforts. Therefore, we support this. They say in evaluating the 4 factors, the interest should be heavily weighed in favor of the plaintiffs. So you're like, really? Is that really going to go here? But they did. They did. In addition to that, this is where, once again, guys, everything you say, you have to be careful about everything you say. So what happened? Well, as part of the TRO and everything that got put together, Lawrence DeMonico, one of the assholes at Rare Breed, shows up. And what does he do here? Well, he brings up a bunch of things here where they, a guy said, I brought my super safety off y'all's website a couple days ago. Got to support the winning team. Look forward to trying the product. A Shock and Hoffman Tactical in Instagram says, not from me. We have not sold them yet. Now, this is the funny part here. This guy points out basically that they've fucking harmed their own reputation. So if I'm Tim Hoffman, like, this is very helpful because they're demonstrating they've destroyed their own PR. Like, they've destroyed any good name they had in the firearms community because they were retarded about it. Because they're absolutely fucking retarded. Now they go on to show further things here. And this is from January 6th, where Hoffman states a new super safety lever making these with metal molding allowed for completely optimized geometry. Really happy with how the surface turned out. I mean, yeah, it looks good. Once again, your messages are being used against you. This shit is all tattle machines. There's another thing here, and he says, is that what I just bought from you at the recent gun show in Knoxville? And what does Hoffman say? Yes. I do like the name Dandy Travis. That's pretty funny. But like, why would you acknowledge this shit? Why would you say these things at all? Why would you say these things at all? Why are you taking like you're just like leaving a trail? You're leaving a trail.
Nigga, is you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy? What the fuck is you thinking, man?
I don't know. What the fuck is you thinking? What is you thinking, guys? What are you thinking? So I like how they dance around the MIM thing just by not using the acronym. Yeah, well, that's because in the gun community, if you say the words MIM, everybody runs for the hills. Unless you're a SIG fanboy and you're like, ooh, I like that SAR. There's more comments. Guys like, I'll take 10,000 units. I can do that. Obviously, this is a joke, but the rare breed faggots are being faggots. Yes, it says, babe, wake up. Off and just dropped the new super safety. They point out that they went ahead and found on Gun Shows USA. And they're pointing out, when was the Knoxville Gun and Knife Show? The Hoffman Tactical Super Safety. This is somebody else pointing out that Rare Breed filed for an injunction. If they succeed, it'll remove the files from the website. If you haven't downloaded the file, I suggest you start doing it now. It's over on the C, meaning Odyssey, which you can still find in all kinds of places. And they point out here, look, there's the preliminary injunction motion that was filed. They say that they'll suffer irreparable injury. They will. And they point out that additionally, the commenter Fast Forward Tactical that is seeking 10,000 units is a real retailer that already has a version of the infringing devices. And here's a true and correct copy of his commercial website, which you're looking at it and like, guess what? A super safety with a pre-cut trigger. $100. I mean, if you don't want to have to do anything, there you go. There you go. So that's why they're asking for all of this. Now, what ultimately happened? Well, they ended up getting their injunction for this. This is ultimately what's going on here. And this is before the court. As of now, they've granted an injunction against Hoffman Tactical. So the court grants the motion for a preliminary injunction. So everybody's ordered from infringing on anything of the patents. They have to remove the super safety for free for download on Odyssey, as wherever else they can find it. Refrain from posting the step files or developer packs. Just refrain from doing everything. You're like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Refrain from licensing or licensing a third party to be involved. You have to do a $20,000 injunction bond. I mean, you have to post a bond of $20,000. A $20,000 injunction bond. Remember, because the idea is, well, if you break it, that's meant to make it hurt. You're like, it's holding your money hostage. So, like, this is how the courts force compliance. Somebody once asked me that. How does a court force compliance with an injunction between private parties? Well, it can imperil your property by, like, posting a bond. And if you fuck up, that $20,000, gone. Now, how does that work? Well, there are companies that do bonding and insurance, and this is where, different like bail bonds. But there's also companies that do bail bonds that do court bonds, and this is one of them. They would have to do an injunction bond, or if somebody has a will, and in their will they wrote their executor has to post a bond. There are companies that provide you with the money to do those bonds. So, anyway, yeah, that's a little bit rough there. Now, there have been some updates, though. There have been some very funny updates. And one of the problems is Rare Breed has sued in a million different places. And one of the problems when you do multi-district litigation is you don't always get the same outcome. And guess what happened to Rare Breed? They didn't get the same outcome everywhere. So what did they do? Well, they filed a lawsuit against Partisan Tactical, or Peak Tactical, with their Partisan triggers. And this is their trigger. It's the disruptor. That's their trigger. It's a disruptor. You're like, yeah, it kind of looks like, yeah, I kind of see what they're arguing about there. Okay. Well, guess what happened? They went to war with these guys in Wyoming. And they made a bunch of different claims, and they sued them for copyright infringement. And this is what happens. When you're in multi-district litigation, you're going to get unequal results. That's always a risk. I mean, it's a risk no matter what. If you take your time and take these people down one by one by one by one. Yes. But when you do it one by one by one by one by one, you can kind of work out and have plans when things don't go right. But right now for Rare Breed, they sought a preliminary injunction and they completely fucking whiffed. So they lost the injunction motion. Now, I know some people have been dabbing on Rare Breed. This isn't fatal for them. This is not a fatal case. They're still well within the fight right now. They point out here that ultimately the court denies the injunction. But notice what they do here. They're, Rare Breed and them are suing Peak Tactical. And what are they doing when they're claiming patent infringement, false patent markings, and false advertisements under the Lanham Act? So they're doing all the stuff there. They are doing this. And they say ABC owns 4 patents that can be retrofitted into the existing rifles. And they talk about there's some different patents here. They say ABC exclusively licensed the patents to Rare Breed, who designs, manufactures, and sells things like the FRT-15L3. And now they go through all of this about as far as what's happened here, and they claim that the part disruptor is a direct copy, and that one of their distributors, Firearm Systems, sells it for $299, which is 33% cheaper than Rare Breed's FRT-15, which it is true. Rare Breed shit is very expensive. There's false advertisements, all kinds of things that are occurring. So what happened here? Well, they wanted initially a TRO, and then they wanted a preliminary injunction as part of it. Now, obviously, they go through and say that it's likely to succeed because they own the patents and it's exclusive licensees. So it should be pretty straightforward. Well, it doesn't work out that way for these guys as we get going here. Now, Peak Tactical comes in and says, well, that's not true. They point out that the patents, because it doesn't satisfy several requirements. So what do they argue? That they can't succeed. They argue that the patents are likely invalid because these require claim construction. We're going to get to what's a claim construction. They also bring up that it's without merit because the terms assisted reset, forced reset, and positive reset are interchangeable. I mean, maybe. They also argue that irreparable harm is not here because they delayed filing the suit for 6 months, while filing 6 other lawsuits against dealers of the disruptor, which that is a big thing. It's like you sued the guy selling it, but not the guy making it. And it's like, why? Unless you're claiming we needed information, but even then, doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But they also argued that monetary damages, lost profits, royalty price erosion, and loss of convoyed sales. They point out that, the defendant asserts a public interest does not favor injunctions, and it doesn't. We generally want to refrain from issuing injunctions. And they say if an injunction preventing sales would be severe, we would likely collapse their business. Well, any hardship to the plaintiffs is compensable. And it is. Rare Breed can get paid, but also Rare Breed could go out of business. Now, these guys out in Hee Hawville, Wyoming, are they really going to knock out Rare Breed? No. But if enough people stick to their path and they all start making similar crap, I mean, I don't think anybody would do that to Rare Breed at this point. That would be really hilarious if they did. That'd be really hilarious if they did. They talk about the relevant law here. Now let's get into patent issues are governed by the relevant federal circuit, and regional circuit law applies to procedural issues. Now, guys, when you're saying what's the federal circuit? Well, the federal circuit is a special circuit. It's not, when you say federal circuits, all the circuits are technically federal, but there are special U.S. circuit courts. And there's an entire setup of them. Where is, yeah, and here we go. And this is a breakdown of how they are. Obviously, we have what we know as the typical circuits. You know, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9th. Obviously, we know the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th. And then you have the DC circuit. Okay. And it has its own circuit courts. And then you have the federal circuit. The federal circuit is a different circuit. It's not, it's a different place where you go. It's in Washington, D.C., but it's a special court. It has special jurisdiction. It's one of the 13 courts of appeals. It has jurisdiction over patent cases, over international law, over international trade, trademarks, government contracts, veterans benefits. Like you have VA issues, you have to go through the federal circuit. Different federal employee benefits, things. It's done in its own unique way. So it's been around since 1982. They took the Customs and Patent Office Court of Claims and the United States Court of Claims and combined them together. So it is a special court that does things there. So there's like if you're on the so for example, like if you are trying to get veterans claims, you appeal for veterans claims and you go through the VA system, and then you want to go into a federal court to do it. Typically, when you're dealing with things like the NLRB is a great example. If you have a labor case, for example, and the NLRB rules against you, you can appeal that. But where do you go? Do you go to district court? No. You go to the circuit that you're in. So for example, in Ohio, if there was some sort of big labor ruling and we went all the way to the top of the NLRB and we had the board rule and it was, the board made a decision and I didn't like it, I appeal immediately to the 6th Circuit. So for example, for veterans claims and VA issues, where do you go? You go to the federal circuit. There's all kinds of things there. So like the Merit Systems Protection Board, the thing we talked about before, where do these people go when there's, all this hijinks in the government? Well, after that board makes a decision, you appeal to the federal circuit. The trademark and appeal boards. You then go to the federal circuit. There's a patent trial and appeals process. And after that's all over, you go to the federal circuit. And then from there, you can try to seek certiorari from the Supreme Court, but you probably aren't going to get it. International trade goes through there. So all the tariff stuff that happened, that went through the federal circuit. That's where it goes. That's how those things are decided. Fatty Caddy's been a member for 16 months. Says, that yellow man lacks our oppressive copyrights. Yes. Yes, that's true. That is true. Oh, Lucas says, I practice VA law. It goes regional office, board of veteran appeals, admin law judge, not presidential. Makes sense. Court of Veterans Appeals, Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, one judge or a panel, and then to the Federal Circuit, then to SCOTUS. So yeah, like I said, there's a process, and then eventually, because where do you appeal to? After you go through the VA, where do you go? Well, you go to the Federal Circuit. That's a similar thing like the FCC. If the FCC doesn't go your way, you go to the circuit courts. Once you're at a certain level, you jump right into circuit courts. You don't go to district court. So that's how that works there. And this one's no different. You go right into a federal circuit court. So thank you, Lucas. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you explaining that a little better. The Court of Federal Claims goes to the circuit too. Yes. Yes, there still technically is a Court of Federal Claims. But it's very limited. Basically it's when you have monetary claims against the United States government. It's all kind of like it's got its own special thing there. Yeah, what you're gonna do there. But yeah, you're suing. It's basically it's for monetary things. Like if you're suing the government on the Tort Claims Act, that's different. That's sued in district courts. Like there's an entire whole thing you have to deal with there. Lucas says, "No worries, Sean. It's rare when a niche area comes up." Yeah, but I mean, yeah, more or less, you go to the circuits. Yes, except for these rare things where you have to go to a special circuit. But notice they point out that we apply our own law with respect to patent law issues. Notice that we apply our own law. Remember, because the federal judge, he is the one determining. He could say your patent's bullshit or not. And that's the crazy thing. A federal judge. So somebody like me, federal judge Sean Martin with my fucking political science degree, I can adjudicate your patent as bullshit. That's got to be scary for the patent people out there, but it is. But anyways, ultimately, how does this work here in the Fed Circuit handles things? They review district court patents and they say they apply their own laws with all of this. They say the court of appeals for the Federal Circuit has also explained the matters procedure. It applies the law of the regional circuit to which district court appeals normally lie, unless the issue pertains or is unique to patent law. If it's unique to patent law, then they're going to get involved. And once again, guys, we've already talked about the TRO requirements. So we're not going to do that. We've already addressed those. How you do a TRO, the injunction for preliminary injunctive relief, likelihood of success, irreparable harm, the balancing of harms there and the injuries, and the public interest. Those are the four elements. We've already addressed those. And it says the ruling of the court. Now, notice, I know some people out there, like I know John Crump and some of these guys said it was like a big victory. It's a victory, but it's not as big as you think. At least for now. It's a good sign, but a lot of things can get fixed here. The court finds each of the factors weighs against the imposition of a preliminary injunction. And we're not going to go through all those because that's not really the big stuff here, guys. The big thing is we're getting to the actual patents themselves. Because the court makes some interesting points here. Patent infringement. And this is where it's a little bit different. This is where it gets a little different. And there are two ways you can establish patent infringement: literal infringement or infringement under the doctrine of equivalence. And it says literal infringement occurs where the alleging devices each and every limitation of the asserted claims. Infringement under equivalence occurs when the allegedly infringing device performs the same function in the same way to obtain oneself the same result as the patented product. Yes. Now notice, what did Tim Hoffman do? He took two pieces and just shoved them into the AR fire components. And it did the whole thing. Remember, Rare Breed is pissed off because their argument is this whole thing we made is replicated by this and normal components. Yes, that is a problem. That is the issue here they're looking at. That is the issue they're looking at. Radcon Hazard says for the 2.0 tiramisu fund. She's not a big tiramisu person, although I am. I like good tiramisu. And then Fatty Caddy for $5 says, they lack functioning society. Defending your job much, Sean? 99% of IP law is just to record labels, and the baby should be out with the water. Maybe you could cut things back, and yes, like people like Disney have bastardized and abused they've abused IP law and gotten all kinds of dispensations. But overall, no, I don't want to get rid of it. I don't want to get rid of it. I don't want to get rid of it. All right. It's some bullshit here. Yeah, well. Yeah, the super safety is genius in its simplicity. Yes, it is. But literally, when you pile it in with the regular parts, it does the same thing. And that's the interesting part of this. It's the interesting part of this. It is very, very interesting. It is very interesting. So, and they point out to establish likelihood of success on patent infringement, you must show that the product likely infringes on one patent asserted. So the first step is to determine the meaning and the scope of the patent claims, and the second step is comparing the construed claims to the device accused of infringing. And they point out that plaintiff has failed to meet the burden in two ways. The material claim construction disputes preclude a finding of likely infringement, and the defendants have raised serious and substantial questions regarding validity. This is a big one here. Serious and substantial questions of validity. This is, like I said, this is a big deal. I know if John Crump, if you're out there, you probably fucked off or are doing something a lot more fun. This is a big deal. The court is saying there are serious concerns regarding validity. Remember, chat, a federal judge could say, you don't have no patent no more, homie. You don't have, I don't want to play with you anymore. No more patents for you. This is a big fucking problem. This is a big fucking problem. Well, I'll say this is the major win. This is probably the part that is a major win, I would argue. The rest of it is kind of like, But yes, this is huge. This is huge. So the court will address the claim construction and then claim validity. But he explains why there's still, it sounds bad, but it may not be fatal. So for claim construction, you must analyze the text of the patent and its associated record and apply the rules of construction and then arrive at a true and consistent scope of the patent owner's rights to be given legal effect. You guys are doing towers for the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Oh, no. And it says the Federal Circuit has made it clear the interpretation and construction of patent claims is a matter of law exclusively for a court. Juries do not get to do this, chat. The terms and the construction of a patent is a question of law. So the court must resolve fundamental disputes and interpretations before proceeding with infringement analysis. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it says only terms that are in controversy need to be construed, only to the extent necessary to resolve the controversy. And it says the court will outline the relevant text of the patents and apply the rules of construction. So text of the patents. They say these patents are related and share common specifications, 3 trigger position safety trigger mechanisms. And here's the thing here where it gets to all this. And it says the defendants identify a portion of the claim stating, and notice here what it says, whereupon, they go through all of this and they bring up here The bolt carrier reaches substantially in battery position. Notice they're saying substantially. And the defendants state the patents set define themselves the set position. And they're saying here's where the set position is. As the state wherein the sear and sear catcher engagement in said positions of the hammer and trigger member are out of engagement. Okay. So that's what they're saying here. So establishing the rules of construction, and it says terms are given their ordinary and customary meaning, meaning they would have to a person of ordinary skill in the art of the time of the invention. Okay, so the ordinary skill in the art of the time of the invention. Okay, now they say we must look at the ordinary meaning and context of the written descriptions and the prosecution history. So you rely on intrinsic evidence, including its specifications and prosecution history. And what does that mean, prosecution history? When you've enforced your patent rights. So when you've sued other people, what did you say or the arguments you made? So you can rely on previous expert testimony or dictionary definitions can also be involved. Now they won't do your words don't get ordinary meaning when the patentee sets out a definition and acts as his own lexiconographer. And when the patentee disavows the full scope of a claim term, either in the specific or during presentation, you must set forth a definition of the claim other than its plain ordinary meaning. So if you make up your own terms, you could do this. And when you make clear the invention does not include a particular feature, and that's outside the reach of the claims of the patent, even though the language claims, it's broad enough to encompass it. If you focus in on it, you can exclude things depending on how ridiculous you are. Now, they point out there are material disputes, meaning these are serious disputes regarding the meaning of claim terms that are central to the infringement analysis. The defendants dispute the scope of the phrase substantially in battery position because, what does substantially mean? What does that mean? What does that mean, actually? The defendants claim this phrase is a timing gate for when a locking member transitions from blocking to permissive, meaning it determines when the mechanism transitions from a block state to one when firing is permitted. The defendants argue the phrase has more than one interpretation when applied to the AR operating system. The plaintiffs treat the phrase as having an obvious and straightforward meaning. Well, remember, Rare Breed saying it's very clear, and Partisan saying, no, it's wide. It's very vague. And they say the plaintiffs don't offer an express definition, nor do they address defendant's claim. And the plaintiffs state when the trigger is pulled, the hammer contacts a firing pin, causing the discharge. This causes the bolt to move rearward. And it pushes against the hammer, which forces the trigger to return to its reset position. And this is after that, the locking bar prevents a trigger from being pulled again until the bolt carrier is returned to the original position. Okay. And we talked about here's how the Rare Breed thing works. This is the inside guts of it. And then it swings up, bam, and fires. Now, the defendants hired an expert who argues that substantial in battery position could be interpreted to include a meaning close to fully in battery, a meaning that includes a broader band of near battery positions during forward travel. He continues, the phrase also raises a second critical ambiguity, whether the claim requires the bolt carrier contacting unlocking to occur at the moment the carrier reaches that in battery condition. Meaning, as soon as the carrier is in the thing, is it locked or is it not locked? Like, what is going on? These are not clear. We don't know what this means. To say relying on the asserted claims that the bolt carrier reached a substantial in battery position, the phrase is disputed and potentially outcome determinative. Yeah, because, is it unlocking or is it partially locked? Is it all the way locked? Remember, what does substantially mean? Because remember, an AR-15 bolt, when it comes in, it rotates and locks. Well, is it full? Is it halfway? Is it 25%? Is it even if it hasn't locked yet? At what point does that count as a locking situation? It's not clear. It's not clear. And it says the plaintiff nor their expert discuss what that means. The plaintiff expert states the trigger operates by being forcibly pushed into position, with the seer engaging the hammer each time the action cycles. And he goes on saying another shot can't be fired until the bolt returns to the in battery position and the trigger is pulled again by the user. And he says they profane for providing a direct rebuttal to the terms. However, depending on how substantially in battery is construed, the timing requirements of the claims change. And they say because infringement analysis depends on the court first resolving the claim, the court can't properly compare the asserted claims without construing the meaning and scope. And they say there's insufficient evidence presented to make a comparison between the two. So notice they didn't do a good enough job at bringing out information. I can't make a decision. He says, accordingly, plaintiffs cannot demonstrate little infringement or infringement under the doctrines, nor a clear likelihood of success at the merits on this stage. And it says only when a claim is understood can a determination be made. And it says the court will proceed to address the validity of the rest of this in demonstrating the likelihood of success. And I talk about validity. Now, let's say courts don't resolve the validity question, but instead assess the persuasiveness of the evidence. But the court also recognizes, look, I could do this and we could come out later and you might find more stuff. And I might go, wow, you guys were wrong. You guys were right all along. I'm sorry. So we'll go back to that. And it says patents enjoy a statutory presumption of validity. And that's true. Remember, we in the system, we have an idea that you're trying to encourage it, that the patent is presumptive and presumed to be valid because it was issued and evaluated. Now, if the infringer responds to an injunction by launching an attack on the validity, the burden's on the challenger to come forward with the evidence of invalidity. And they say the patentee, to avoid a conclusion that it's unable to show a likelihood of success, has a burden of responding with contrary evidence. So, Partisan Triggers said it's not valid. Rare Breed didn't do a really good job of explaining that, so the court's kind of left with well, what do? I don't know what to do here because you haven't helped me to Rare Breed. Chanel Boo Boo, it sounds like they don't have a patent. They didn't explain it fully, but they're going to have time to flesh that out still. It's not over yet. They have time to fix this. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just telling you the reality. And it says invalidity must be proven at trial by clear and convincing evidence. Notice that. Clear and convincing. Clear and convincing. Duncan, Idaho, is your use of the title just meant to stir people up? I know you're a stickler. I mean, well, it's technically Rare Breed Trigger. I mean, war. I mean, I don't know. I thought it kind of wasn't sure which way to go with that one. But yes, thank you, Duncan. So if you present evidence raising a question of validity, and if the patentee can't demonstrate it lacks substantial merit, the patentee has not demonstrated a likelihood of success. And it says here the plaintiffs have not shown they are likely to withstand the invalidity challenges. Once again, this is the big stuff, guys. This is the shot across the bow. Rare Breed better be put on notice. And once again, if they lose here, buddy, now we're going to have some awkward results. It says the court will address the theory supporting the invalidity, and then the plaintiff's burden to overcome that. So, what's the question here? So invalidity theory is tied to obviousness, and that's one of the ways you can attack a patent. It's not novel, and that's one of the options here, chat. I talked to a guy who does one of the guys I went to law school with started doing IP stuff, and he took the class on. He was like, explained to me, he's like, it's obvious. Like, this isn't unique. Anybody could have figured this out. Well, you're not entitled to a patent. That's a problem. That's a big problem here. So they say patent for a claimed invention may not be attained if the differences between the claimed invention and prior art are such that the claimed invention as a whole would have been obvious before the effective filing date to a person having ordinary skill in the art to which the claimed invention pertains. Now, guys, prior art doesn't mean like art like Monet or Degas or like Van Gogh. Prior art is evidence that something was known. Earlier patents are an example of prior art. That's all it is. That's all prior art is there. Publications, things that had been invented. Even if there aren't patents, shit people was selling would be prior art. There's a lot of different ways you could interpret prior art. All information available basically, it's all the information available in the world to the public anywhere at that date. So, like for example, if you invented something, but it turns out like 10 years ago, some guy on YouTube's like, check this shit out. Look what I made. That's prior art. Prior art can be a lot of different things, but basically all the information known in the world at the time. Ploxer says, how hard was Rare Breed bonked by the administration to do this? Money. Imagine this. We're going to let you sue everybody and you can run the forced reset market. Money. Mr. Krabs says, I like money. That's why they did this. You have to publish in your field before applying for a patent? Oh, interesting. Oh, it's rare. It's a rare breed. I don't know, but yeah. Well, so, yeah, they gleefully got into this agreement. They were happy to take this. So they say a patent composed of several elements is not proved obvious by demonstrating that each of the elements was independently known. That's correct. So it's got multiple parts. You can't just say every part was independently done. The appropriate inquiry is whether the subject matter would have been obvious to somebody of ordinary skill in that area of working at the time of the invention. So for people working in firearms design, would this have been obvious 20 years ago? That says, although an incentive to combine prior art references may be inferred, there must be some articulated reasoning with some rational underpinning support the legal conclusion of obviousness. And the court, and here it says, the court finds the defendants have raised a substantial question of validity. And it says the challenge rests on the multi-layered obviousness theory grounded in the case law here. They contend the 6.7 patent and the TACON 3MR long predate the asserted patents. And notice they're getting into, guys, and there are all kinds of stuff out there if you've been involved. There was the Atkins accelerator was something that existed previously. That was a whole thing in the lore of the Atkins accelerator was also something that was out there. And the Atkins accelerator was something that would allow the ATF determined they were machine guns. Nowadays, they probably would have survived. But the Atkins accelerator was an entire operation too on its how it all worked out. But here is the TACON 3MR trigger. You're like, wow, isn't that look like something we've seen before? Ooh, uh-oh, Rare Breed. I don't know. That kind of looks like what you have, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Doesn't it? Doesn't it look like something they're doing? Huh. 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 I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty fucking close. Whoa, buddy is right indeed. So, they contend they predate the patents and disclose the same core forced reset architecture. It's a long-standing prior art, and the asserted patents merely combine these elements in predictable ways. And they say defendants contend the prosecution histories also reflect limited consideration by the patent office of this prior art, including the TACON 3MR and the 67 patent. It says they only need to raise a question of invalidity at this stage. Notice, they don't have to prove it, but they just have to go, well, I'm just asking questions. But the court finds that the evidence of the other patent and their prior art analysis is sufficient to meet the standard for now. And notice they point out vulnerability is the issue at the preliminary injunction stage, while validity is the issue at trial. So notice, it's helpful, but it's not fatal. So is this a win? Yes, it's a win. Is it a win? No. But it's a win. And if I'm rare breed, I'm shitting my fucking pants right now. Now they say once there's a raise of validity, the burden shifts. And he says they haven't carried their burden. The plan phrased numerous contentions, including the non-existence of expert claim charts and the proof that the patent was looked at. They say, although these arguments all call into question the defendant's arguments, they fail to demonstrate the validity challenges lack substantial merit. Additionally, contrary to the arguments, the defense only need to raise the question now. They don't need to prove it. Remember, the case has just started. We have not gotten into discovery. The showing the question requires less proof than clear and convincing. And he says material claim construction disputes preclude a finding of likely infringement. And the defendants have raised substantial questions regarding validity. And it says collectively, the rare breed failed to do the right job on this. So the court's going to get involved. They talk about false advertising here. So what are you talking about with false advertising? You have to make a statement that was false or misleading, and you have to demonstrate it was facially false or likely to have the effect of misleading customers. Now, they say there's two bases for that they falsely represent. The partisan disruptor is an assisted reset trigger instead of a forced reset trigger. They claim that's misleading. They assert the labels are mutually exclusive and explain the two triggers are designed to operate in different ways. They say the forced reset trigger uses a mechanism to fully reset the trigger, and the assisted trigger only partially resets the trigger. They also argue the disruptor is covered by the patent, which partisan employee Michael stakes as a named investor. And the defendants say we haven't made any false, misleading statements. It says the court determines they have not demonstrated their false advertising claim will succeed. The defendants have presented adequate counter testimony to bar an establishment of facial falsity. What the hell is this down here? Oh, hold on, chat. What the fuck is this? Is this the old one? Why the hell is that over here? That should be... I was wondering where that went. Yes, another win for the toe. And they say the plaintiffs have not presented any evidence of the actual influence on customers. And its showing is required. But notice, it's not over yet. The balancing of harms, well, They argue that they're selling an allegedly infringing product or contrary to law. They could not suffer any harms. And they say because partisan has procured patent insurance, the defendants are at a minimal risk of harm from the preliminary injunction. And the defendants claim we'll go out of business, and they probably would. And they say even with the bond, the damage would be indeed extreme and irreparable. And it says a record that the infringer will be put out of business is a factor. And they say, despite all of this, the court finds the absence of evidence demonstrating irreparable harm. And they note the plaintiff's claim related to the patent insurance could lessen any concerns it has about the defendant's ability to pay a prospective damages award. So notice they're pointing out like, oh, by the way, you did say they have insurance. Guess what? They can pay you later. And the public interest here, and notice, guys, these are the BRCA genes, that shit is also patented. You could patent cells and medical things that we do to shit. So living organisms, like stuff can be patented inside of you. No, that was not in my gooning bucket. They cite here, they point out there's no legitimate public interest, and they say the DOJ has permitted Rare Breed to market its triggers on the condition that Rare Breed enforce patents. And they say that, this is ridiculous. And they say after the hearing, the plaintiffs filed a supplement attaching the injunction for the Hoffman case. And it says there the defendants were accused of infringing on 3 patents listed. And he says this is different from what's going on here, though. He says the defendants note the DOJ entered a statement of interest in the Hoffman case, but not here. And it also said that the defendants' unrestricted distribution of super safety files would result in widespread copying. They say, but as mentioned, the defendants posted the firearms designs online for free public access. And it's a freely distributed design. Well, that's not here. And it says the plaintiffs have failed to demonstrate the same public safety problems. And they say this case, different patents are at issue, and there's a question of validity. Plaintiffs failed to address that in the construction challenges. And it says the court finds a public interest will not be highly impacted if the injunction is not granted. So what happens here? So the court finds they failed to show the burden of irreparable harm at the injunction stage. Everybody's to proceed under the status quo. And notice, here's what he says. The findings and conclusions do not constitute a termination on the merits, but the findings are made in light of the requested preliminary injunction order, meaning this is not over yet. But for this stage, I had to make some basic rulings. So can discovery and further pleading and motion practice change this? Yes. But for now, yes, this is a win. Once again, chat, this is a win. It's just not a win. It's not a win. So it's a big win, but it's not a fatality. Oh, so meme copium. Was there a trigger warning on the stream? Yes. Ag, what are you saying? Most lawsuits that Sean should cover. What? So. It's more of a PP slap than a win. No, it's still a pretty important thing because these guys just took it in the ass. They took it in the ass. And what happened immediately after that on Valentine's Day? They panicked. And they filed their notice of multi-district litigation with all their attorneys involved. They want multi-district litigation pending. And they're showing all the other stuff they've got, and they want to try to they want to merge a lot of this stuff together. Because that is a problem with multi-district litigation. You could remember there's 93 different district courts in the United States. You could get 93, and you have 93, and let's say you have a cause of action in every district. You get 93 different outcomes. That's not good. So you try to do multi-district litigation and bring stuff together because that makes sense. So that is where we are. So if you want to, you could probably get another. If you want to support partisan triggers, go ahead and do that. And you want to make rare breeds suffer like the bitches they are, good, let them. So yeah, too many choices is correct. Yes, they're basically being told you have to prove it. You have not proven it yet. That doesn't mean they can't, but it is actually kind of a showing that like whatever they were trying before wasn't working. Ag says, how about the roundup? Oh, you mean the Monsanto lawsuits? If you can get me some more stuff there, I can take a look at that. Sellers says, address the Kilmar ruling. We're gonna do the Kilmar stuff tomorrow. We got a Trump show tomorrow night. We're gonna do probably about 7:00. Like I said, we'll do the call-in show after that. But yeah, it's absolute horseshit. That judge has no authority to decide that anymore. He's detained, he qualifies, and he should be in custody without bond. So she has no authority to do stuff. Although it's funny though, apparently maybe his attorneys did lie about what Kilmar had said or done earlier. Told Monkey says, I'll never support rare greed. I hope it's worth it for Lawrence. Yeah. Just like HR Precision. You know, they had Lon Horiuchi endorse those gun stocks. It's like, you know, I hope that was worth it. I hope that was worth it. And Boosh, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Yes. Suffer, rare breed. Suffer. Yes, they're gonna suffer. I mean, really, like, I don't know how they don't think they like I said, these depositions they're gonna have to go through. I don't know how they don't realize people don't think their name is Mud and people fucking hate them. I don't really know how they don't think that's happening to them. It's very weird that they think that they're okay or like they're the hecking good guys because they're clearly not. They're clearly not the good guys. So, Axe says attorney's lying. No way. Yeah, but we got some Trump stuff to get into tomorrow, and we'll take care of that. Okay, so I promise you guys we'll get to that. What's he here? 267 people. Damn. Thank you guys all for being here. 220 on YouTube. Wow, that's what YouTube's shitting the bed. You mean like the McAlberts in Canton, Sean? Yes. Yes. If they make Keltec super safeties, I will suck them off because Keltec sucks on triggers. Yes. Well, that's a problem. That's a problem. Make it a Keltec. Jesus, that's dangerous. KLF, we're ever going to do the au pair sentencing? Yes. Juliana Margulies, we're going to do her sentencing kind of in between the Trump show and the call-in show tomorrow night. We're going to do those. We're going to do it 3 for a chat, but remember, the sentencing is only like 10 minutes long, so we'll immediately do that and then go right into the members only show. And that'll be here on YouTube chat. Remember, members only. Join up here. Yeah, do the Keltec RFB. That'd be so funny. That would be so funny. An RFB with a reset trigger on that. Just boop, 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 boop. It'll be like in Call of Duty with the like 308 Enfields. Yeah, they're $500 triggers too. Yeah. That is a problem as well. So they can all suck a dick. Kale says it's not definitely more than 10 minutes. Really? How long is it? Hold on, let me take a look here. Oh, I thought it was shorter than that. Oh, parent sentencing. Oh, it's 39 minutes. Yeah, but we're going to zip through it. We'll zip through it. Sorry, it's like a half hour. We'll get through it all, though. I might not be including the victim statements. I mean, we'll go through it a little bit there. We'll take a little bit of a look. You recently pre-ordered the FRT for the P90. Ooh. I mean, how does that work, though? Because the P90 is already a cassette trigger. Does that just become like, does it have a whole new, like, because it's a whole fucking thing. Like, the P90 is a whole, like module. I don't know. I tried to. Well, I don't know. You can't really super safety the. Can you super safety the P90 really? I mean, that's a neat thing. People are figuring out how to do all this shit now. Like the ingenuity is just pouring out of the woodwork at this point. So. But yeah, guys, it's only 30 minutes long. We'll still do it before the call-in show. We will do a call-in show there. The P320 is an HRT approved gun. Yeah. Yeah, the trigger comes out of the butt. Yeah. Yep. Yep, it does. It's like the AUG. It's a cassette. Or it's like a module pull out. If you think you could fast forward to Juliana's statement, then the judge is sentencing, that might be 10 minutes. I mean, I kind of want to hear the victims talk to her. But yeah. Bullpup rifles for the win. Yeah, they are. They're neat. They're neat. Is the call-in show on this channel? Yes. It's going to be members only, but it will be on this channel. Yes. Yes, it will be on this channel. It'll be members only. And Boosh says, yeah, bullpups are fun, but like I only want an AUG because of like I just want to do what Carl does the whole time in Die Hard. You sit there with the long barrel and you like take it and lock it in the whole time and then like unlock it and lock it. I mean, like I have a bunch of I have a couple of like AUG waffle magazines and I don't own an AUG. I found them at a gun show for like dirt cheap and I was like, I'll take those for now. Never know when I'll need them. Wait, I can call in. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put the StreamYard link up. I'll let you guys use it. And then like as 10 of you get in here, I'm just gonna start going through who's in line down below and we'll talk for a minute. If you guys have questions or whatever, we'll go through them. So yeah. Yep. His mom and aunt gave statements. It's nice to actually hear about Joe for once. Oh, does she? Joe's mom talks? Does she say like I really liked sharing our I like sharing all of our, fetishes together? That's so funny if they did. That's so funny if they did. Um did you read all the super chats? I'm pretty sure I did. EDW, Sellers, Johan, EDW. Yeah, happy Lunar New Year's. I thought we did. Oh shit. Oh, Great Loner, I didn't see this. 308 ARs are Kino and the best battle rifles on the planet. I mean, yeah, in today's day and age, yes, but up until like 30 years ago or even 25 years ago, it would have been the G3. But yeah, nowadays, yes, like the SR25 pattern saved that. Saved the 308 ARs. Because the AR-10's fucking garbage. And I'm talking about the Armalite. Like the Illinois Armalite. But yes, great loader for $10. I agree. And the SR25 definitely fucks. Yes, very much so. Sorry for missing that. Grok has a legal document remote now tested for us. Yeah, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust it. You're gonna call and ask my refrigerator's running. Well, do I look like I'm gonna catch it? No, it'll come back. Campsite says the non-mil-spec AR-10s. Yeah, the ones that don't have the SR-25 patterned. Or the non-DPMS patterned AR-10s. The 308s. The Rabbit Stick, the M14, yeah, but the M14's cool. The M14's got that look and all that. I mean, and we had like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, like it just looks good. So, amateur iconoclast for one sub. I would go into panic mode if my refrigerator ran away. I would. It's like if all the dense internet went out, if the internet went out in Renton, Phil would have a heart attack. If somebody stole my refrigerator, I'd just be out in the street like, no! And I'd be like just stapling up on telephone poles everywhere. Have you seen me? GE refrigerator. Full of food. It will come back. It knows where it's loved. I hope so. Radcon says if Sean used Grok law, the prosecution could use it as a BS vector. No, it's not even that. It's just the idea that I don't think it's, as an attorney, people should never see an attorney joking around with stuff like that. I think it really kind of diminishes, like, like using it that way. Now, like in LexisNexis, it has some AI stuff, which is a little more like it's meant to be legal and it's already got baked into its AI. Like, don't manufacture sources, don't manufacture opinions. That makes a little more sense. But no, just doing it in Grok, I don't like that. I don't think so. You join the call-in, but I'll be pretending to be at work. Bruce says there's a DM at that worked on Sitter. What? Oh, you got a DM? Oh, let me see here. Let me see here, chat. What's the DM? Don't see it. Don't see it. I'm not sure what you're getting at. Let me see. What the hell? Let me see what the new things are. So, nope. All right. What time's the call-in show going to be? Like 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. I'll set it. Feed Grok a Greer filing and have it review it. Well, no, because it'll be like, it's going to melt down on itself because it'll recognize its own thing. But yeah, we'll do about 9 o'clock. Meme Copium, how you doing, buddy? Says new things look fucking suck. PM or AM? PM. I wouldn't do it at AM. Nobody'd be available. I got to be in court tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. anyway, so that's not going to work. It's not going to work. What number do I call in for east of the Rockies? Jesus. No. You have to find your operator and hook you up with your Sprint access number, and then you have to dial option 5. In the evening, it's PMs. Is the show going to be 2 hours ago? That's wild, man. Well, it's going to be 22 hours from now. Because it's not Wednesday yet. Duh. So that's what meme streams anyway. Well, he's going to suffer because we're have a call-in show. We'll hang out. All of us will hang out together. It'll be fun. So, all right, guys. I think I caught up on everything. Once again, great loan, right? Sorry I didn't see that. But I think we're all done here. Yeah. Rare Breed's hurting. They can fix the ship, but they're going to be hurting a lot. Yeah, I'm becoming a proper e-boy. I know I'm going to be like Rob Nor. I'm going to do a call-in show. Although I don't know how he does his, if he does Discord or what, but yeah, we're going to do a call-in show, chat. Play the year 2025 as bumper music. I got to use use the Dreamland music with all the fucking the synths in it. It's like, like, oh God. Yes, live from the kingdom of Nye. It's Dreamland. In the high desert. I'm going to dox us all like Joe did, Mandy. No, because I'm going to keep this screen on. And you guys are just going to talk like just as a disembodied voice. So that's what we're doing. You'll be singing Freebird and doing Xannies by 2030. Fine. How many Xannies am I going to do, and how many members are we getting for Freebird? It would be cool if it looked like a cable access show. I remember when I was a kid growing up, the local cable channel And it was funny because you could turn it on. It was like channel 11. And it would show like this camera was just showing on the intersection in town, like directly in the middle of town, the town square. And it would just have shit on screen. And then like these guys had different shows and there was this one guy, I don't know which math teacher it was, but this dude would just sit there and just do fucking math and he would teach math. So Access Kill Stream 2.0 is really bad. Yeah, but this is tapping into like old Ralph. So it's like Phil said, welcome home. Welcome home. If you guys have never been here before, it's like a blast of the past. Special call-in segment, Clyde Talks. Can I call and just say, oi, Mr. Prime Minister? Yes, you can. 100% you can. 100% you can. All right, guys, so I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to go to bed. Got to get some stuff ready for tomorrow. And Clyde and Bonbon will host a marriage advice show. Bonbon went home. So Bonbon's not coming over for a little while. So. Oh. I hope Jim calls in. That would be great if he did. Yes, bed. Yes, it's not. It's 11 o'clock where I'm at. It's not 8 o'clock. You foofers in California. So, good night, chat, and I will talk to you guys later. And just remember, until next time, just because you're fucking over Rare Breed doesn't mean you're guilty. And honestly, because they want to break bread with the feds and do all their dirty work for them, they deserve to get bent for all their greed and everything they've done. And why is that? Like, why are you doing that, Mr. Hare? Stay up. Stay up. There we go. That's so weird when it fell down all the way, so it was like boop. It was like that, and it's like, why are you doing that? No, stay up there. I'm not that Norwood. I'm not Norwood. And see, we're hanging in there, chat. We're hanging in there. Flip it like an emo kid. Oh, yes. I am the law. Oh, they're Benedict Arnold. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. No emo, Sean. It's not a phase, Mom. It's a lifestyle. The millennials are all 90 now. Yes, we are. Anyway, chat, good night. I will see you guys tomorrow. About 7 o'clock, we'll get the Trump shit going. Cover some stuff. We'll do the Magali sentencing, and then we'll do the call-in show. So I will talk to you guys later. Good night, chat, and take care.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy Rick Hayden yelled at? Why, yes it was. He even knows he's fat. For all this fun and more, there's...
I mean, I don't know if they're not really emo-y, but I mean, like, Dashboard Confessional sounds pretty good right now. A little Swiss Army Romance.